Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Board of County Commissioners meeting to order. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Good morning, Board. Chair Kemp?
Here.
Cohen?
Here.
Hagan?
Here.
Myers?
Here.
Overman?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
White?
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First, we're going to have a pledge and invocation by our chaplain, Commissioner White. And Commissioner, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. Attention, salute, pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the good people and causes that are going to be recognized here this morning, and we just pray that you will guide this board, our staff, and stakeholders as we move into doing the people's business here in Hillsborough County. As always, Lord, I want to pray for our first responders and members of our armed forces. Pray that you will guide them and keep them safe each and every day, and to just give thanks for them as we approach this season of Thanksgiving. I ask for all of these blessings and give these thanks in your heavenly name. Amen.
Thank you. We are presenting 3 recognitions today. The recipients for the first 2 proclamations are joining us virtually. The recipients for the other recognition are here in the boardroom. Commissioner Overman will present the first proclamation. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Today is a wonderful day. I wanted to double check because I haven't logged into the virtual arena, but I'm looking for Alexandra Johnston, Regional Manager for Hiring Our Heroes, Katie Lopez, Director of Military and Workforce Development for the Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce. Are they both available?
Good morning. We're here, Commissioner.
Excellent. Thank you so very, very much. Welcome. Hillsborough County is dedicated to serving and protecting and cherishing our veterans' families. They face many, many challenges as their loved ones. Just a second.
They might want to mute themselves.
Challenges do exist everywhere. So, okay, shall I proceed? Got it? Okay, great. I'll just start over. Hillsborough County is dedicated to serving and protecting and cherishing our veterans' families. They face many challenges as their loved ones serve this nation and, in many cases, sacrifice their lives to defend our freedom. Spouses, parents, siblings, and children, these families are stateside heroes. They unconditionally give their love and support to their military family members, oftentimes from a distance, while managing their homes and facing stress and uncertainty. The good news is these families are not alone. In addition to Hillsborough County Veterans Services, our community partners provide outstanding services to the families of veterans. Hiring Our Heroes and the Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce are just 2 examples of organizations that are instrumental in helping these families and recognizing their commitment, sacrifices, and perseverance. It is my honor to present this proclamation declaring November 2021 as Military Family Appreciation Month. It reads, whereas for generations, dedicated soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine, and members of the Coast Guard have served the armed forces to defend and protect the United States and its founding principles. And whereas standing behind these heroic men and women, providing them invaluable support and love, are their spouses, parents, siblings, and children who manage and care for their homes while their loved ones are deployed. And whereas the families of servicemen and women often shoulder increased burdens and responsibilities when their loved ones are called to duty, enduring the stress of frequent relocations and long separations for extended periods of time and over great distances. And whereas Military Family Appreciation Month was established in 1996 by the Armed Services YMCA, and with U.S. government recognizing the occasion every November, and whereas Military Family Appreciation Month dedicates November as military families around the world, recognizing the commitment they make for their loved ones and their nation. And whereas Military Family Appreciation Month is a time when Hillsborough County honors and recognizes the unique sacrifices family members make, in addition to the challenges they face, and in support of their loved ones in uniform. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby declare November 2021 as Military Family Appreciation Month in Hillsborough County, and encourages all residents and visitors to thank military families for their tremendous contributions they make in honoring the county's service members, the military mission, and our nation. Executed this 17th day of November 2021, signed by all 7 commissioners. Ms. Johnston, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you so very much for the honor to be here today on behalf of Hiring Our Heroes and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. I want to thank you so much for this special recognition. And also as a military spouse of an active duty Air Force member here at MacDill, this is truly special. It means very much to me and my family, and also the military families that I get to work with on a daily basis. It has been wonderful to be in this role as the program manager for the Hiring Our Heroes Corporate Fellowship Program, and also my involvement with the military spouse programming that we run here, and having worked now with over 200 military families and transitioning service members who are moving into this community. It is without a doubt that this wouldn't be possible without the support of this community, and going above and beyond for the military members that are transitioning into their post-military careers in the Tampa Bay or Florida area. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing this work in 2022.
Thank you so much for all that you do for the families of our active military and our veterans as well that are transitioning out of the military and active duty. Ms. Lopez, would you like to share a few thoughts with us?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. On behalf of the Tampa Bay Chamber and our more than 1,400 members of the business community, we thank you for this opportunity to recognize military families and the important role that they play not only in our local community, but also in the recruitment and retention of an all-volunteer force. We are so proud here in Hillsborough County to be home to more than 100,000 veterans and their families, MacDill Air Force Base, members of the Coast Guard, National Guard, and Reserve. We'll continue to advocate for quality of life initiatives that support military families and those efforts that connect the transitioning service members and spouses with gainful employment. Again, thank you for recognizing military families and for your leadership, which is imperative to ensuring that our community is one where military families thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. I truly appreciate the work that both of you do, and my partnership with the Tampa Bay Chamber in order to protect and support the military families, both active and retired, our veterans in Hillsborough County. And Chair?
Thank you. Our next recognition will be presented by Commissioner Cullen. Commissioner?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Before I begin, I'd like to ask some very special guests and good friends to join me here on both sides of the podium. From the 13th Judicial Circuit, we have State Attorney Andrew Warren, Public Defender Julianne Holt, Circuit Judge Samantha Ward, and General Counsel David Rowland. Good morning. And from the Hillsborough County Bar Association, we have President and my fellow Berkshire Bear alumni, Corey Person, and Executive Director John Kynes is with us this morning. Good morning. We also have Government Lawyers Section co-chairs, Lindsay Sierra and Christian Kachuk. Thank you for joining us this morning. Until the day before I was sworn in to the Board of County Commissioners, I was a government lawyer, and I can tell you firsthand that lawyers who work for our various branches of government and their individual entities are truly unsung heroes. The practice of government law is a calling that requires unique individuals who are willing to put in long hours and be content to work in the background. They work tirelessly to uphold the Constitution of this nation and state, to draft, interpret, and enforce laws and ordinances, and to carry out numerous other legal responsibilities, both large and small, for their employers, and the public. For example, we as a board depend upon the expert counsel and guidance of our county attorney's office to make legally sound land use and zoning decisions, among many other determinations. And do not forget, judges are lawyers as well. All these distinguished legal professionals make the rule of law work. This is an extraordinary public service. I am proud to present the following proclamation in honor of these devoted public servants. And it reads, whereas government lawyers are a distinguished and unique group of attorneys who work for the various branches of local, state, and federal governments. And whereas specialized legal professionals who have varying skills, government lawyers lend their unique talents to all types of government agencies. Whereas from public defenders, state attorneys, attorneys general, and United States attorneys, to county and city attorneys, law clerks, court staff attorneys, judges, and many more in between, they serve the public in the thousands. And whereas government lawyers are dedicated public servants who devote their lives to public service at a reduced pay that often does not reflect their value, and whereas providing valuable and critical legal services to city, county, state, and federal governments through a multitude of government entities, government lawyers do important work that positively affects communities. Whereas government lawyers are leaders in the community, offering their unique skills for the betterment of society, and are unsung heroes who often go unnoticed and unrecognized while ensuring the fair and expeditious administration of the legal system. Whereas without the dedicated service of government lawyers, it would be impossible to ensure access to justice and the administration of it. And whereas government lawyers deserve recognition and thanks for the valuable services they provide to their respective government agencies and the public at large, now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby declare November 17th, 2021 as Government Lawyers Day in Hillsborough County, proudly recognizing all government lawyers serving municipal, county, state, and federal governments, and thanks them for their dedicated public service. And it is executed on this day and signed by all 7 county commissioners. Ms. Sierra and Ms. Kachuk, I am pleased to present this to you and to congratulate you for your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want us to?
And I think we are going to, if we step back, the board members can stand up behind us and we can have a photograph. Is that right? Okay, that's what we're going to do. Maybe bring that. Okay. There we go.
Mine real quick. Thank you. 2, 3, and I'll share this with everybody. Thank you all.
Corey, be well. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. And our last recognition will be presented by Commissioner Overman. Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Commissioner Cohen, for bringing this up. I also want to celebrate my legislative aide, Lucas Martinez Jr., who is also an attorney who serves my office quite well. And I am thankful and grateful for his service as well. The next proclamation we have to offer is related to Buy Local Month. The individuals this morning that I believe we have virtually present or maybe physically present. Brunel Sims, the owner of Marion Landscape Services. Corey McCaster, a small business consultant with the Economic Development Department and Entrepreneur Services team. Are they present or online? I think I see them online.
Yes, Commissioner.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us today. Local businesses are the backbone of our local economy. And where we dine with friends, where we purchase goods and services, where we take our out-of-town guests for entertainment, and where we buy gifts, all of that helps build culture, community, and of course, prosperity. Each dollar you spend at an independent local business returns 3 times more money to our local economy than one spent in a large chain. This is why we encourage and celebrate Buy Local. The influx of revenue local businesses generate is essential for local business growth, strong schools, improved infrastructure, and an overall increased quality of life. Hillsborough County Economic Development, led by Director Lindsay Kimball, I think we've had a change there too, so we may be losing her gifts and talents. And her talented staff, they're still here, and that's a good news, has been steadfast in supporting our small businesses and entrepreneurs. The recipient of today's proclamation, Mr. Sims of Marion Landscape Services, is a valued client of the Florida Small Business Development Center at Hillsborough County, a tremendous resource for our local businesses. Mr. McCaster and other county staff work tirelessly to help business owners achieve their dreams and grow their enterprises. Even during the pandemic, this team has not missed a beat. In honor of Mr. Sims and other local businesses and entrepreneurs throughout Hillsborough County, it is my pleasure to present this proclamation. It reads, whereas according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the United States is home to 32.5 million small businesses and represents 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the nation. And whereas small businesses are responsible for 62% of the net new jobs created over the past 9 years, and employ 46.8% of the nation's private sector workers. And whereas by buying local, Hillsborough County residents embrace this unique, vibrant community, recognizing that one-of-a-kind businesses encourage a strong sense of pride in place. And whereas buying local creates prosperity, as the multiplier effect of locals, choosing locals, create diverse job opportunities, help build family business legacies, and provide revenue for local government services and programs. And whereas residents also help protect the environment by buying local, with purchasing habits, central locations, and smaller footprints of local businesses often results in less pollution and congestion. And whereas Hillsborough County celebrates local businesses that create jobs, boost the economy, and preserve neighborhoods. And whereas Marion Landscape Services, LLC, has been a client of the Florida Small Business Development Center at Hillsborough County since July 1 of 2019, beginning with 4 employees and now employing 22 to serve Hillsborough County. And whereas Marion Landscape Services is an infrastructure management company that provides expert landscape and grounds maintenance services for land assets owned by government entities, developers, utilities, toll authorities, airports, universities, tourist attractions, and other major landholders. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commission of Hillsborough County, Florida, does hereby declare November 27 through December 27, 2021, as Buy Local Month in Hillsborough County, and urges residents and visitors to support our small businesses and merchants throughout the holiday season and throughout the year. Executed the 17th day of November 2021 and signed by all 7 commissioners. Congratulations, Mr. Sims. Would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you and the rest of the board for this extraordinary honor and privilege, recognizing the hard work that we've put in here at Marion Landscape Services. Of course, the hard work isn't done by myself alone, so I'd like to, first of all, thank my wife and 2 daughters who provide tremendous motivation. Also, internally, inside of my organization, I'd like to thank Irving and Anne Marie. And also, I'd like to thank the entire SBDC team, and in particular, Corey McCaster, who has been there for me since the inception of my business and has guided me with his knowledge and mentoring. And I'd like to thank him for his friendship as well. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, and thank you so much for all you do and all the commitment you've put in as a small business owner. After being a small business owner for 30 years prior to signing up for this job, I recognize how hard it is and what a team effort it takes with the family and the community around you. So congratulations on your success. Corey McCaster, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for the kind words, Renell. I really do appreciate that. I would also like to say to the board, thank you for your continued support and recognition of small businesses throughout the county. It means a lot to the team back at the office to see the recognition, to get the recognition for small businesses every year. We work hard to try to make sure that the businesses get the resources that they need. And you guys, the board makes that possible. So thank you again for that. And then also, Brunel, I would like to say to you, it's not easy for an individual with a family to take the step to leave employment and step out on your own to start your own business. And you did that. And congratulations on that. And the growth of your business may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Chair?
Thank you, and I want to thank all our recipients for joining us today and for everything they do to make Hillsborough County the best county in Florida. And with that, we will move to changes to the agenda, Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We have 2 items for board consideration pursuant to Rule 13 Rules of Order. The first item is item F2 by Commissioner Myers. It is to direct staff to prepare a letter of support for the chair's signature to the Florida Department of Transportation to light the Bob Graham Sunshine Skyway Bridge blue on November 20th, 2021 in recognition of National Adoption Awareness Day. The second item by Commissioner Overman, item F3, time certain at 10:45 a.m. to receive the additional materials submitted for item B3 to approve the proposed resurfacing projects list to improve approximately 285 lane miles of county roadways at various locations throughout the county for the Capital Improvement Program project, Roadway Pavement Preservation, ARP funding. At 10 a.m., we have item D1 is to hold a public hearing on November 17th to consider an amendment to Chapter 24 of the Hillsborough County Code of Ordinances and Laws, which will create Article 5 regulating the use of fertilizers containing nitrogen and/or phosphorus within unincorporated Hillsborough County. At 10:15, item F1 is Commissioner Smith's item to approve providing, a letter of support to HART committing up to $15 million in a local match for a Florida Department of Transportation grant application for the construction of a new $100 million heavy maintenance facility. Item B4 at 10:30 is to adopt the proposed 2022 Hillsborough County State Legislative Program. Item F B3 at 10:45, Commissioner Overman's item related to item B3, to receive the additional material submitted for item B3, approve the proposed resurfacing projects list to improve approximately 285 lane miles of county roadways at various locations throughout the county. Item B3 at 10:45, approve the proposed resurfacing projects list to improve approximately 285 lane miles of county roadways at various locations throughout the county for the capital improvement program pursuant to the board's direction on September 1st, 2021 of $35 million. 11:45 is the recess for lunch. Those are the changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Cohen and seconded by Commissioners Overman and Smith. Is that correct? Seeing no further discussion, can we please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp,
Yes?
Cohen,
Yes.
Hagan,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Overman,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move to public comment. The board welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valued in terms of providing input to the board members. However, it is requested at the same time when you address the board that comments are not directed personally against a commissioner or staff member, but rather directed at issues. This provides a mutual respect between the board members and the public. The board has set aside a 45-minute period in the morning immediately following changes to the agenda for public comments. At the discretion of the chair, the board may again hear public comments at the end of the meeting. Anyone who wishes to speak virtually or in person during the meeting may do so by completing the online public comment form found at hcflgov.net/speakup. The form is open for public sign-up 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. An option is available to notify whether comments will be provided virtually or in person at the meeting. Additionally, in-person speakers will be able to sign up for on-site via kiosk or smartphone on the day of the meeting. For participants who wish to speak virtually who have completed the online form, an audio call-in number will be provided to you after the form is received by the county. All speakers will be required to provide their name, email address, and telephone number on the online form. This information is being requested to facilitate the public comment process. Sign-ups for both virtual and in-person public speaking opportunities for public hearings and public comments close at 9 a.m. the day of the meeting. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which their requests to speak have been received. Prioritization is on a first-come, first-served basis. The boardroom and the multi-purpose room are designated for speakers only. Those who come to County Center to watch the meeting and not speak will be accommodated in the lobby area. Only the first 12 in-person sign-ups will be allowed in the boardroom for public comment. Face coverings are strongly encouraged in the boardroom, though not required. CDC guidance strongly recommends that unvaccinated people and those with weakened immune systems continue to wear masks. The multi-purpose room will be available for those residents who signed up to speak after the first 12 people have registered. Speakers are asked to leave the boardroom after sharing their comments with the board. All virtual speakers will be muted upon joining the meeting, and unmuted after being recognized by the chair by name. Up to 3 minutes is allowed for each speaker. And with that, we will move to the first speaker this morning, in person, Renee Rivard.
Good morning, Commissioners. Renee Rivard, Cortez, Florida. The Tampa Humane Society has taken in 246 unwanted pet rabbits so far this year. That's almost 100 more than last year. And they turn away 3 to 5 a month. Those unlucky rabbits are probably getting dumped outside where they won't survive. We have been asking for a ban on the retail sale of rabbits like other communities have done. People don't realize what an expensive, high-maintenance pet a rabbit can be. They can live up to 10 years or more. Even the salespeople at some of the pet stores that sell rabbits agree with us. Feed Depot in Lutz said that they wait until after Easter to avoid impulse buys. Foster's Exotics in Port Richey told me that rabbits are not good pets for children. They don't like to be picked up, and you need a lot of space for rabbits. Another sales girl there said they are cute when they are babies, but a lot of people don't realize the care that is involved, like they don't want to be in a cage. An associate at Pet Supermarket said kids see pictures of bunnies at Easter time and ask their parents to buy bunnies. Then the bunnies end up being homeless. Another employee said they only carry 2 to 3 at a time to prevent people from buying just because it's Easter. One store I asked about their return policy, and she said for illness only, otherwise everyone would want to bring them back. The manager at Petco in Carrollwood said that people don't realize that rabbits are the third given up pet behind dogs and cats. He said it is for that reason that Petco does not sell rabbits. PetSmart also does not sell rabbits. You see, commissioners, even the salespeople know that rabbits are a high-maintenance pet that are an impulse buy and end up being unwanted. In January, breeders will start breeding for Easter. We are going to be in more trouble with unwanted rabbits. We are short on time to try to get a grip on this problem for 2022. Would you please consider a moratorium on the retail sale of rabbits for March and April to curb impulse buys? It seems like all of you care, but are waiting for one of the other commissioners to take the lead. Please don't turn a blind eye. Please make a motion to get the ball rolling. The situation isn't getting any better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. Betsy Colville, in person. Dr. Colville, Lutz, Florida. As I begin educating myself about the plight of rabbits, I will share what I learned with you. A unique but unpleasant aspect is the numerous ways mankind has figured out to both use and abuse them. Cosmetic testing, painful chemicals in the eye, raised for meat, farmed for fur, entertainment, hunted as rabbits, used as bait for other animals. In comparison, who would have thought being a pet would be anything but heaven? Together, we found thousands were not only not in heaven, but the third most surrendered pet. They require higher maintenance than dogs or cats and can live 10 to 12 years. Frequently dumped outside, when rescues are full, they starve, become prey by coyotes, or hit by cars. No matter which way we are exploiting them, the bunny mill is consistently the source. No different than the puppy mills we recognize as inhumane, the does are bred at every heat for 8 to 10 litters, as long as feasible. The smaller, sickly ones are sold as bait or as reptile food, live or frozen. They live their entire life alone in a cramped, dark, dirty cage without benefit of exercise or sunshine. The boredom results in abnormal behaviors, biting wires, and self-mutilation. There are currently 3 locations in Florida which have placed bans on retail sales of rabbits: Orange County, DeSoto County, and Key West. They have all placed rabbits, along with dogs and cats, in their retail sales ban. Key West simply added rabbits to their definition of pets. Similar to retail bans for dogs and cats, they allow sales from shelters and rescues. Petco and PetSmart stopped selling rabbits in 2007 and only work with rescues. They are number 1 and 2 in retail pet supplies in the U.S. So obviously a ban will not hurt these businesses financially. This ban will take the pressure off rescues and the Humane Society, removing the guilt of turning them away and negating the need for owners to dump them. Hillsborough County has been a leader in the state for protecting animals. Our county had the first animal abuser registry, which is a template for the nation. Anti-tethering laws, pet sales bans, regulation of breeders and trainers. Now, as we work to educate and change laws in neighboring counties, we hope you will be the trailblazer for the Tampa Bay region. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Isabel Tassi, virtually.
Madam Chair, Isabel has not checked in.
Thank you. Michelle Gogan, virtually.
Good morning. Thank you for your time today. I'm calling in to ask your consideration for this moratorium on rabbit sales for at least the months of March and April during the Easter holiday. Why? Because rabbits purchased for the Easter holiday are more likely to be impulse purchases. Unfortunately, 80% of rabbits bought as pets around the holiday end up facing two grim fates within the first year. One is death, and the other is being discarded. People think, oh, they're so cute, they're so cuddly, they're so fun, and that's all true. But rabbits grow rapidly. They're very sensitive species that require a real-time commitment, a long-term one at that. Rabbits can live up to 8 to 12 years. They're not impulse buys. Rabbits are intelligent, they're highly social, and they're trainable animals. Rabbits deserve the same consideration that we give to our family dog or cat. So I'm asking your consideration for this moratorium. Let's make Hillsborough County a more humane county for animals. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. Commissioner White?
Thank you. I have a question for the county attorney. If the board did want to pursue something like this, if we were able to gather data that would indicate that that there is a problem around the Easter holiday with impulse buying, based upon that data, would we be able to institute a ban that would only be for, say March and April of each year, or would it have to be kind of an all or nothing approach?
Commissioner, to be honest, because it would directly affect businesses and livelihoods out there, we would have to research that. I'm not saying that it's not a possibility. I would just want to really do the research and make sure. So we can certainly, if directed, work with the animal resources group and provide information to you if you need that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I stand on this issue at all, really, but I would like to understand whether or not just targeting those couple of months of each year is an option from a legal perspective.
We will certainly look at that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would like to look into this too, because I've gotten significant mail about it, and I do have some sensitivity to what I have seen. I have literally seen a domesticated rabbit running up and down a street, in a city street, that clearly either it had escaped or been let free. And whether it's tied to the Easter holiday or whether it needs to be in the spring, I'm not sure. March and April is always when Easter falls, but I think we do need to look at the time frame, what sales look like, and what returns look like, so that we can discern what the best practice would be, not only for the industry but also for our furry friends. So thank you very much.
Yes, Commissioner, I understand your questions, and we will research it and provide the information to the board.
And for the record, I'm pretty certain that Easter always falls in March or April. Now, I may not know the dates can vary. I understand that, but I'm pretty certain it's always March or April. So.
And as long as the discussion is here, I'll just say I had it on my future items to bring today. So, and I'd actually be interested in a full-fledged ordinance as they've done in Orange County. But we'll wait. But at any rate, at this point, we'll go to our final speaker this morning, Miriam Parnham, in person.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us and for this opportunity. First, I have to comment on your Buy Local month, and I think that's wonderful. That was thrilling to hear this morning. Congratulations on that, and to the awardee recipients. So I am Miriam Parham with Florida Voices for Animal, a local group that's a nonprofit organization, 501c3, incorporated in 1989. And I represent almost 5,000 people in this area. Our mission is to educate the public about animal abuse and exploitation. And this retail sale of rabbits can and does result in extreme abuse, even by well-meaning adults and consumers, and extreme exploitation by those who stand to make money from this, the retailers, the breeders, the transporters, which transportation is very stressful, and the confinement. You've heard statistics about how the rabbits, that are purchased are turned into shelters or sanctuaries, and there's no room for them. They're not often taken, and how sanctuaries are overwhelmed. This is a year-round problem. This doesn't go away after March and April, so I would love to see it considered as a total ban, because rabbits really don't make good pets. You've heard the veterinarian speak, Dr. Colville. You've heard Renee Rivard speak about how many are turned in already, so there's a lot of good statistics. They need a lot more care than people realize. Not just their daily cleaning. I mean, they really, not to be crude, but they poop and pee a lot and require a lot of cleaning, and they chew everything, and they poop out probably more than they seem to even chew. And they chew things like anything from rubber to plastics to clothing to woods, electrical wires, things that upset people. These are some of the reasons people turn the rabbits up, because they're just so hard to keep. And they get sick before people even know it's too late, because they don't always show the signs and symptoms of when they're ill. So I feel like rabbits are often left out when animal protection ordinances are discussed. We talk about dogs and cats, but they should be provided this protection from potential cruelty and mistreatment by not being sold in retail pet stores. So I hope that discussion will continue to pass a ban on the retail sale, not just before Easter, but definitely especially then. That is probably when a lot of them occur. But they just simply don't make good pets and suffer at the hands of well-meaning people, and especially kids. They don't like to be picked up. They can be injured easily, as you've heard. And my understanding is that they can get out, and then they don't survive in the wild. They have trouble. So that's not an environment that the cold and heat can make them very sick. So the best solution to this problem is to prevent the tragic outcomes by not having them sold in retail stores. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And with that, that ends public comment, and we will move at this time to the consent agenda.
Move consent.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioner Myers to the consent agenda. Hearing no discussion, can you please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Okay, we're on to our regular agenda, a little early. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. Yes, we do have a few minutes before 10 o'clock, so we can move on to item B1. This is the approval of an agreement with the Florida Department of Transportation for $25 million for the Big Bend Road widening and I-75 interchange improvements. And with that, Jim Hudak with Capital Programs will present the item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jim Hudak, Capital Programs Department. Commissioners, item B1, we're asking for your approval of the grant agreement between the county, the Florida Department of Transportation, and the U.S. Department of Transportation for the I-75 interchange at Big Bend Road Improvement Project. The county was awarded $25 million from U.S. DOT under the Federal Build Discretionary Grant Program for transportation projects with a significant local and regional impact. FDOT will perform the design and construction of the project, which will include the widening of Big Bend Road between Covington Garden and Simmons Loop Roads, the interchange improvements at I-75 and Big Bend, and related safety enhancements. Because FDOT is performing the construction, the build grant award will be paid directly to FDOT. You may recall that the county and the FDOT entered into a local funded agreement, or LFA, in April of 2021 for this project, which provided that the county was to provide the majority of the funding for the project with certain contributions and reimbursements from FDOT. The LFA indicates that if a grant is awarded for the project, the LFA will be amended to reflect a reduction in the county's financial participation. We do anticipate bringing back to you in the next few months an amendment to that LFA, which will provide for the reimbursement of the $25 million grant back to the county. Overall, the design build contract has commenced, and the overall project is anticipated to be completed in 2024. FDOT's overall design build contract does also include a goal of 10.65% disadvantaged business enterprise, or DBE, usage, and an additional 3% non-DBE small business usage goal. With that, we request approval of this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner White. It's been seconded by everyone. I think we could say that. Commissioner, I think I heard saying first, Commissioner Myers and Commissioner Cullen, but yeah, I would say everyone is there on the same page with this, and we've said so many times. So seeing no further discussion, can you please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes?
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
Excellent. Ms. Wise?
Thank you. Long awaited, right? Item B2 is to designate a brownfield area to help the redevelopment of 61 units of affordable residential development. Yaksha Petrovic will take us through this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yaksha Petrovic, Corporate Business Development Manager, Hillsborough County Economic Development Department. On September 17th, 2021, Blue UACDC 1 LLC submitted an application requesting that Hillsborough County designate the parcel at 13635 North 12th Street, Tampa, Florida 33613 as a brownfield area. The property consists of approximately 2.843 acres and is shown on the projected map.
You haven't shared it yet?
Oh, it's not.
Thank you.
Florida statutes require public announcement of the community meeting and 2 public hearings to designate a brownfield. The proposed community meeting is set to be on December 6th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at Harvest Hope Center located at 13704 North 20th Street, Tampa, Florida 33613. The 2 proposed public hearings are set to be on January 12th, 2022 and February 2nd, 2022 at 10 a.m. during the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting in Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners Boardroom on the 2nd floor of Frederick B. Carl County Center, 601 East Kennedy Boulevard, Tampa, Florida 33602. Staff recommendation is to authorize setting a community meeting and 2 public hearings as proposed. Staff is also requesting a waiver of statutory requirement that one of the public hearings be held after 5 p.m. The advertised community meeting will be held at 6 p.m. and BOCC will be provided with full transcripts of the public comment at the community meeting. At this time, I have to answer any questions you may have.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, and it's been seconded by Commissioners Myers and Overman. And seeing no further discussion, can we please get a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes?
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
Thank you. Ms. Wise?
Thank you. The next item is item B5. This is to execute 2-year agreements for ongoing and as-needed professional engineering, civil engineering services. Scott Stromer, Director of Procurement, will present this item.
Good morning, Scott Stromer, Procurement Services. Item B5 is asking the board to select, award, and execute 2-year agreements with the 7 highest-ranked and best-qualified firms: Burgeston Nyepel Incorporated, HNTB Corporation, Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated, HDR Engineering Incorporated, AECom Technical Services Incorporated, HW Lochner Incorporated, and WSP USA Incorporated, in the amount of $2 million each, for a total of $14 million for ongoing and as-needed professional general and civil engineering services that are required for capital transportation infrastructure improvements. The requested engineering service will be used for intersection improvements, new signals, traffic signal interconnection, complete streets, corridor enhancements, road surfacing, resurfacing and reconstruction, bridge rehabilitation and replacement, and related infrastructure projects. In this case, the opportunity for proposers to receive 5 bonus points by subcontracting a minimum of 10% of the ultimate fees to disadvantaged business enterprises was available, and 33 of the 35 total proposers requested those points, including the recommended firms. With that, Procurement Services Department does recommend it.
Thank you. Do we have a
move for approval? Oh.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cohen. Sorry, by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Cohen. And seeing no further discussion, can we please have a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes?
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
Ms. Wise?
Thank you. That covers our regular items that are not time certain. So we can move on to Commissioner Myers' item F2, to direct staff to prepare a letter relating to the lighting of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge.
Commissioner Myers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a simple request this morning for us. We all know we would like to see the Skyway Bridge light in blue and join the other counties in participating. And I ask this board, let's join and support a letter in order to make this happen.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner Cohen. Seeing no further discussion, can we please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes?
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried, 7-0.
What else do we need to do, Ms. Wise?
We do have a staff report.
Okay.
We do? Okay, and this is a staff report that the board asked us to come back with regarding pickleball amenities throughout the county. And
We weren't saving that till last.
Yes, and we all do love pickleball, so we'll have Rick Valdez will present this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Rick Valdez, Director of Parks and Recreation. I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide a report on pickleball amenities in Hillsborough County. Go ahead and turn the page, James. So pickleball, as we all love, is the fastest growing sport in America, and we are seeing that right here in Hillsborough County by the continuous requests for additional pickleball amenities throughout our county. For those of y'all that may not be familiar, it's a hybrid of tennis, badminton, and ping pong. It's played by about 4.2 million players in the United States. Average age of players is 38.1 years old. 61% are men and 39% are women, which provides a good average for both. Our current court inventory on the next page. We currently have 14 courts that are dedicated to pickleball, and we have 18 that are dual striped, and these are tennis courts that we've essentially converted to a hybrid pickleball court. The only difference is between the tennis and pickleball, of course, the court lines are different, and we add additional lines to the courts, but the net is also 2 inches higher for tennis, so it's not quite regulation. Our funded projects include Branston Park, where we'll be adding 4 pickleball courts, Town and Country Park, where we'll be converting 1 tennis court to 2 pickleball courts and then renovating the other tennis court, Villa Rosa Park, where we'll be dual striping tennis courts that are currently there, as well as Chandler Park, where we're adding stripes to the current tennis courts. Please turn the page, James. Next is our proposed pickleball court locations. Saladino Park, we're looking to add 2 standalone pickleball courts, expand the parking lot, add a new basketball court, add sports LED lighting, as well as the additional stormwater improvements that are going to be required due to the additional parking space in court. The estimated cost is $900,000, and we have identified impact fees in the central zone to cover this cost. Higginbotham Park. We're proposing to add 8 courts with LED lights. The location will be the old court hockey court that you see on towards the bottom southeast of the screen, so it will not impact the cricket fields that are very popular. The estimated cost is $660,000, and we do not currently have funding for this project. Progress Village Park. We're proposing to convert the existing tennis ball courts to 4 pickleball courts with LED lighting. The estimated cost is $540,000 to resurface and convert the tennis courts, and we do not currently have funding for this project. Baum Park. We are proposing to install 8 new pickleball courts with LED lighting. The estimated cost is $660,000, and it is also an unfunded project, and this is a high population growth area, as there are several new communities being built right around this park. In Springhead Park, we're proposing to convert the existing tennis courts to 4 pickleball courts with LED lighting. Estimated cost is $540,000, which will include the resurfacing and converting of the tennis courts, as well as upgrading the existing lighting to LED. And we do not currently have funding for this project. Westwood Lake Park. The community, we have received several requests from the community for pickleball at this location, and there is an existing sort of a multi-purpose basketball court that's there, but there's also another basketball court on the other side of this park, so that's why we're proposing to convert the multi-purpose court that you see to the right of this property to 2 pickleball courts. We will not add lights, and the estimated cost is $270,000. North Lakes Sports Complex. This is a very popular pickleball location. We have probably hundreds of people playing pickleball here every day already, because in our first phase, we converted some existing tennis ball courts to 8 pickleball courts, and it is very popular. The problem is there's so many people coming to play at this location that the people are waiting a very long time to play, and they really enjoy the fact that there's so many courts at one location. And by adding an additional 8 courts, by converting the remaining tennis courts to pickleball courts, this would give us an opportunity to have large-scale pickleball tournaments as well. So estimated cost is $100,000, and it is currently an unfunded project. So on the final page is a proposed of all of our projects. We show Saladino Park listed as funded, as well as the additional unfunded projects. And our recommendation for the funding will be that we'll submit a DU for a master project in the FY23 budget to fund the proposed projects. You have any questions?
Thank you. Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask Mr. Valdez to repeat his last sentence about the FY23 budget. I didn't catch what he said.
Yes, sir. So what we will do is we will submit a decision unit for a master project in the amount of $2,770,000 to fund the proposed unfunded pickleball courts in FY23. For the Saladino Park, at the next board meeting, we'll submit an agenda item to create a project and ask for the board's approval to move the impact fees that are available in the central zone to fund that project.
Very good. Well, I was going to suggest that, and Mr. Valdez took the words out of my mouth. So thank you for that. I've been briefed individually on this item because I was the commissioner that started the conversation, and I just want to say that Rick Valdez and his staff have done outstanding work in creating this plan and bringing this report to the board. I would ask that the board support this plan and accept this report. So I will move to accept the report.
We have a motion by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioners Overman and Smith.
And Madam Chair, if I still have the floor, I failed to point out that statistic really stood out to me, that this is the fastest growing sport in America. I know we have a data-driven staff, and knowing that this is just, such a growing and such a hot sport right now, I think it's the appropriate thing to do to provide these amenities to our citizens.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I do appreciate the work that's been done. I would like to see, before we were to move forward on making what appears to be permanent changes to our tennis courts, unless it's able to morph, a survey of those, or at least an analysis of how much they're utilized. They may not be utilized, obviously, at the current rate, because pickleball's not available in those places. I do know a significant number of folks in the average age range that showed for pickleball that are racing to the courts that are in the city in order to make sure that they have an opportunity to play because of the waiting opportunities there. So there is clearly demand. I'm looking forward to seeing us explore ways, but I would like to kind of get an idea of what the audience of tennis players and how they feel about that before we would move forward. But I'm glad to see this work done. Plus, I was glad to hear that Higginbotham Park would not invade the cricket fields, because I have a feeling Commissioner Higginbotham would drive from wherever he is in the country to assure that would not happen. So thank you very much, Rick, for making that happen. Thanks.
Commissioner
You're
Smith?
welcome. And sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just to answer your question, we do request public comment. We work with communications whenever we are totally converting a court away from tennis to pickleball. So right now we're in the middle of that process in North Lakes, and we would also do that at any other park where we're choosing to remove an amenity. If we're just dual striping the court, then they can still play tennis and pickleball.
And Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you, and I just want to say I'm very excited about this move to pickleball, I want to commend our park staff under Mr. Valdez along with Commissioner White for working together on this. It is a sport that is accessible to a wide range of populations, from elderly people to disabled populations. And in my experience with disabled sports, adaptive sports, I've seen pickleball really rising in popularity. So I know that our parks department, Mr. Valdez personally, but his whole staff beneath him is, or under him is very passionate about extending our amenities and our parks and involving our citizens in our community with sports opportunities in a broad range throughout this whole county. And I'm very pleased to see this moving forward. So thank you. Thanks to everybody working on this.
Thank you. And Mr. Valdez, I'm just a little disappointed. Ms. Wise told me that you were going to roll out a pickleball court in the boardroom and that we were all going to have some lessons here as part of this. I understood as well that you were suggesting putting it on the county seal, but I see that hasn't happened. So at this time, we have a motion by Commissioner White and seconded by Commissioners Overman and Smith. And seeing no further discussion, can we please have a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Ms. Wise.
Thank you. Hard to believe pickleball is more popular than mahjong, but okay. Had to throw it in there. All righty. It is now past 10 o'clock, so we can move to our 10 o'clock public hearing. This is to hold a public hearing relating to the use of fertilizers, and Vivian Reyes-Spattles from the County Attorney's Office will take us through this item. This is a public hearing.
Good morning. As stated, this is a public hearing to consider an amendment to Chapter 24 of the Hillsborough County Code of Ordinances and Laws. The ordinance creates Article 5, regulating the use of fertilizers containing nitrogen and/or phosphorus within unincorporated Hillsborough County. In drafting the ordinance, the county has met the requirements in Section 403.9337 Florida statutes and has considered input when provided by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, and the University of Florida's Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences, as well as other stakeholders. Additionally, a staff report was included with your packet, which provides the scientific information considered by staff. There is an enforcement and penalty provision in the draft ordinance, but the specific penalty amounts would be approved by the board through a resolution at a later date. This ordinance was duly noticed in accordance with applicable law, and Mr. Kevin Moran, with the Division Director of Environmental Services, is available to answer any questions regarding the scientific information considered by staff. Also available are EPC and Tampa Bay Estuary program staff as well. I'm also available for any questions.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, and at this time we have 3 sign-ups here. Michael McGrath is virtual.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Michael McGrath. I'm an organizing representative for Sierra Club Florida. Sierra Club Florida supports Hillsborough County's efforts to adopt this strong countywide fertilizer ordinance that will really help to strictly regulate fertilizer use within Hillsborough County and help to reduce excessive nutrient pollution to our bay and other cherished water bodies here within Hillsborough County. Really, upon adopting this ordinance, Hillsborough County will also join over 100 municipalities and will be the 16th county in Sierra Club Florida's record to pass the strict rainy season fertilizer ordinance here in Florida. And this one has really been proven to be effective within other communities over the last decade to help limit the over-application and also misapplication of residential fertilizer that leaches into our waterways. And, really the turf grass, pest control, and landscape industry response has been very positive. We've seen with these different fertilizer restrictions, we've seen the industry create many summer-safe products that don't contain nitrogen and phosphorus that help you can still keep your lawn green. So, businesses have been able to adopt this, and it helps all the other businesses also within these communities also rely on, clean water. So really, this is one of the most cost-effective means for, county to protect its waterways and manage stormwater. And we all know that clean water is the lifeblood of our community. So we just encourage you to pass this ordinance. I think we can all agree after the events at Piney Point and the summer's red tide event, we need to limit the various sources of nutrient pollution that get into our bay and also that overstress our ecosystem so we can allow it to recover. So now's the time to pass this strict rainy season ban on urban fertilizer so we can help limit the runoff that fueled red tide or other algae blooms and help the bay recover. Thank you.
Thank you. Walter Scotton in person.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak again. I was here before and spoke on this issue, and so I'll try to do it within 3 minutes. We have 3 bodies of water in the state of Florida: Biscayne Bay, Indian River, and Tampa Bay. They're very much alike, and there's no other bodies of water like that in the state of Florida. All of them are suffering bad from the loss of seagrass, and they all come from the same sources. They come from nitrogen and fertilizer pollution. That would be septic tanks, fertilizer, phosphate industry, agricultural industry, basically, and pets. Dade County is fighting tooth and nail to solve the problem. What they did is they approved as much money as they could to start replacing the septic tanks in Dade County. Indian River, all 4 counties have already approved what we're trying to approve here. And it's important to know that this isn't a partisan issue at all. This is a bipartisan issue. They did surveys at Tampa Bay Times, and 85% of the people supported action on this issue. The counties that passed that on Indian River are anything but blue counties. Those are red counties. I've been over there. I know those people. They're going to protect, not in my backyard. It's not going to happen in their backyard. And they're losing. They've had a really hard time. People will say, well, you're not going to solve the problem just by doing this, you know? Well, you're not going to solve the problem by doing this. But personally, I deliver for Meals on Wheels every Wednesday. I spend time delivering Meals on Wheels, and people could tell me, you're not going to solve the problem, the elderly problem of being alone or not getting food, but I do what I can, you know? And that's what we're asking, is do what you can, because this is a very important issue. The governor himself was talking about it yesterday. And I know when the bay's healthy and when the bay's not healthy. You know, one of the things I have to do on Meals on Wheels is check to make sure the people are there, to make sure the people are okay. Well, I can check Tampa Bay. I can go to the bay on Bayshore Drive and look down at low tide, and I see it's green. Okay, I know that's not healthy. So nobody can really say that's healthy. I own property. One of the properties I have is a house in Tampa Heights that I rent out to 2 Cuban American boys. And when they moved in, they fished all the time. You know, big surprise, right? Cuban guy. Well, they don't fish anymore. I just asked them the other day, do you still go out? No, there's nothing out there. It's just depressing. We need to take action, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And I rarely comment after someone speaks, but I'd just like you to know, and the community, we have done great strides in converting septic to sewer and invested tens of millions of dollars for the first time in decades.
That's great.
And we're improving throughout the county, town and country, university area, Gibsonton, Waimama, and Ruskin, as well as others. We have a real concerted effort to do that.
Yeah, it's a big job because that's a big bay, and it's going to need all the help it can get.
You're right.
So.
Thank you. And Noelle LaCour, virtual.
Good morning. My name is Noelle LaCour, and I'm here to support Agenda Item D1, regulating fertilizer containing nitrogen and/or phosphorus, with an exemption for ag. Proper fertilization enhances growth, increases flowering and fruiting, corrects nutritional deficiencies, and enhances the plant's appearance. Improper fertilization can damage plants and the environment. This ordinance will help limit improper fertilization. This ordinance will not stop red tide, but it should help reduce it by reducing the potential for these nutrients to be carried into our waters from stormwater runoff. A study from 2018 from FWC shows that red tide found in Florida is fed and worsened by nitrogen and phosphorus and fertilizer. Hillsborough County is the only county in the Tampa Bay area that does not have a fertilizer ordinance, and hopefully that changes today. The only thing this proposed ordinance is missing is an education component, which is desperately needed, especially since this ordinance does not restrict the sale of fertilizer during summer months when it would be unlawful to use. There is a 4R principal nutrient stewardship program. The 4R stand for right source, right rate, right time, and right place, and serve to guide farmers to the management practices that help keep nutrients on and in the intended locations. There are 156 4R partners, which include Mosaic and Ducks Unlimited. I believe something similar could be used to educate residents within Hillsborough County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And with that, we will close the public hearing and we'll move to board discussion. Commissioner Smith, you are recognized.
Thank you. I am very excited to be bringing this in today with the help of so many people that work together on this. I was one of the citizens speaking like the citizens spoke here today. I spoke on this issue 10 years ago, 11 years ago, when this county was unable to pass this then, but our surrounding neighbor counties, Pinellas and the city of Tampa, were able to pass it. And so today I think we're in a really good place where we can see that some of the fears that were brought forward before have not come to pass. Nobody's lawn is going brown. And we are, in fact, able to also see the effectiveness of those ordinances that were put in place around the bay. Last summer, you know, when we had horrible masses of bloated dead fish piling up on our beaches, stinking up the shorelines from Bayshore to Ruskin, we all began working on this ordinance to limit the fish killing pollution in our waters. And it is just one piece of the puzzle, but it's an important piece of the solution. I have been working really hard with the county attorneys and the environmental scientists in our county to craft a strong ordinance that will regulate fertilizer use in Hillsborough County and reduce the nutrient pollution that it comes from our county to the bay and other water bodies in the region. I really want to commend and thank our county attorneys, especially Ms. Arenas Battles, and our natural resources staff and our EPC scientists who worked really hard on draft after draft, going line by line through this ordinance to make sure that it was all in order. And I also want to thank you all for being accessible to the public, to Mr. McGrath, for example, from Florida Sierra Club's Phosphorous arm, who, and being willing to work with people in and out of the county, Tampa Bay Estuary Program, scientists, and bring all of that expertise to bear in crafting an ordinance we can all be proud of. You know, it is much cheaper, easier, and more effective to prevent pollution from entering the bay than it is to clean up the bay after the damage has been done. This fertilizer ordinance, if we pass it today, will bring us in line with the regulations in the city of Tampa and Pinellas County, and it will keep many tons of nutrient pollution out of the bay each year, just from our share. Banning the application of fertilizer during the rainy season from June 1st to September 30th, like mirroring the other counties consistently, when so much of that fertilizer rinses off our yards and just flows through the wetlands and the waterways, through the storm sewers and rivers, and ends up in the bay. The ordinance also prohibits fertilizer application close to water bodies. And there are some exemptions from farming to farming and fruit and vegetable gardens. So I think it's a very well-balanced ordinance. You know, I want to point out that this problem of red tides and algae blooms has been getting worse every year, and that it is bigger, even much bigger than the phosphate spills like Piney Point. Research is now showing that more than 60% of the nitrogen pollution fueling red tide and other toxic algae blooms in Tampa Bay comes from the non-point sources, which is a scientific way of saying our fertilizer washing into storm drains and flowing into the creeks and the lakes and the bay, and ultimately into the Gulf of Mexico. Tampa Bay lost 6,350 acres of seagrass in the 2 years before Piney Point, 2018 to 2020, over 6,000 acres. And that's a 16% loss of seagrass in our bay. We've been exceeding the limits set by the state for nutrient pollution in the upper Tampa Bay for 2 years. And now manatees are dying of starvation and other red tide impacts. Their deaths are setting records with close to 1,000 dead this year. And red tide and other algal blooms have negative health impacts for humans as well. Just in breathing or swimming in the toxins produced by those algae that are fertilized by our fertilizer. So there are 15 Florida counties plus over 100 cities that have passed strong ordinances with very strict summer rainy season application bans. And with this ordinance, we can join those counties and cities around the bay, around the state, who have put similar measures in place to protect Florida's waters and keep that fish killing pollution out of Tampa Bay for the sake of our wildlife and our fishing industries and our recreational fishermen and all the people who like to see everything from redfish and snook to manatees and dolphin in our bay. So I'll make a motion to pass the fertilizer ordinance that's in the agenda backup, which will amend Chapter 24 of the County Code, creating Article 5, regulating the use of fertilizers containing nitrogen and/or phosphorus within unincorporated Hillsborough County.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioners Cohen and Overman. And we have Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for bringing this forward and making this happen. Commissioner Smith, I think that's when I met you, when I was a Friends of the River member trying to protect the Hillsborough River from the fertilizer that was impacting and got progress in our partnership at the city level. And I guess I somewhat fell asleep along the way, not realizing that the county didn't have the same adoption. I had forgotten that it had failed previously. So I just want to say thank you to you and all of those, and county attorneys, as well as all of our scientists that have brought this forward. At that time, when I was working on the city's project, or ordinance rather, Hillsborough River was literally dead. I mean, everything below the dam was, not only because of lack of water, but also because of the nutrients that were killing everything that was in the water. Above the dam, we still have a problem, although it is now as a consequence of not necessarily addressing everything that's coming down the river, from the county side of the equation. So helping our overall estuary heal from this, and in a way that really doesn't hurt our ability to still have wonderful landscaping and wonderful fruits and vegetables and all the things that make this economy strong and rich, I think is a great action to take, and I'm proud to support it.
Commissioner Cohen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Commissioner Smith, I want to congratulate you on really, I know, the heavy lifting of getting this ordinance to where it needed to be in order to pass. I have mentioned before that I'm very proud that 10 years ago, I think it was 2011, might have been 2012, I was one of the members of the Tampa City Council that passed this ordinance, and I can tell you it worked. It absolutely worked in helping to clean the waterways within the city and to improve water quality in Tampa Bay. But the glaring loophole was that even though we had the ordinance in Tampa, and even though Pinellas County had one, Hillsborough County, sitting right in the middle and occupying a huge amount of space on the bay, didn't have the same ordinance. So the water just simply isn't as clean as it could be with this ordinance. The second thing that I want to just let everyone know is that because this was brought up here, the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council took notice of it, and a lot of municipalities surrounding Tampa Bay in the outside of Pinellas County and the city of Tampa are now looking at a similar ordinance. So this is spreading to our neighbors, and with everyone that passes this, it's going to improve the water quality in the bay. So I think that this is really a great step forward, and I'm really thrilled to be supporting it. And I, again, congratulate everyone on work well done to get this over the finish line.
And I'd also like to thank you, Commissioner Smith, for bringing this forward. It was extremely important, and I know I didn't cross paths with you for whatever reason back in 2010, even though we were friends before that, but here knocking on doors of commissioners and going in and not having it successfully passed, which I was aware of, but didn't see where the opening was to change this. And it is heartbreaking. You just brought so much information forward with regards to non-point sources. I guess it is non-source points. But as well, it has been heartbreaking to see that for decades, the leaders on this county commission and the EPC have just done all that they could to protect and regenerate the lost seagrasses, and to see for the first time in decades that we were always reporting good news about our seagrasses growing and filling the bay and more acres, and to see for the first time, and it seems like it might be 40 or 50 years, that we are regressing at a, it's not just a small regression, it's not just a plateau, but it's really dying off, the seagrasses, and we're seeing the impacts on the much beloved manatees that don't have what they need to survive. As well, we had so much public support for this, and I'd just like to note that we got some 60 emails in support of bringing this forward. But to Commissioner Cohen's point, to raise this again now, so everyone who didn't have, the other communities who didn't have the opportunity when these ordinances were being passed, the first generation can now perhaps look at this again and join in. And I am grateful to know that there are tons of fertilizer that won't be being poured into our bay, and who knows, it might be those effects that it would have on other communities across the coast and inland could certainly make a huge difference for our future. So thank you so much for putting this forward. I don't see anyone else who is wanting to speak at this time, so if we could have a roll call vote. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioners Cohen and Overman.
Chair Kim?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Ms. Wise. Ms. Beck.
I just wanted to acknowledge the hard work of Rick Shantz and Vivian Arenas Battles, who worked very diligently on this for several months. So thanks to them.
Thank you. And Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We can now move to our 1015 time certain item F1. This is Commissioner Smith's item regarding providing a letter of support to HART, committing up to $15 million in local match for a Florida Department of Transportation grant for a heavy maintenance facility.
Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I'm pleased to say we have our CEO of HART here with us today, Ms. Adelie LeGrand. I'd like to bring her up to speak about this item and kick it off. Thank you, Ms. LeGrand.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Board of Commissioners. Good morning, Ms. Wise. It is my pleasure to be here and to be able to present this great opportunity that we all have before us. And I want to start off with thanking you for your consideration in this effort. I do have a brief PowerPoint presentation that I submitted to staff. And as we pull that up, I just wanted to share that, as you may be aware, HART has a heavy maintenance facility that was built in the 80s, and we've been using this facility as our main heavy maintenance facility for our 134 buses that are in operations to support the 34 routes that we have running throughout the county. This maintenance facility is in need of repair. I don't like to say that it's old because it's younger than I am, and I don't consider myself an old person, but as it relates to an actual facility, it has passed its useful life. Next slide, please. So I have a couple of pictures here that just show some images of the facility as it stands to date. So this image is showing you that, because of flooding and just because of the geography that we do have a rainy season. And because of the rain, our facility is prone to flooding. So in this site, you see some of our stored materials in our shop. They get damaged because of the water. We also show that in the actual yard, there's standing water. Next slide, please. And because of the standing water, it's caused sinkholes throughout our facility, which we, constantly repair, but they always, represent themselves after a heavy storm. And it's not necessarily a storm that's associated with a hurricane, just heavy storm waters create these sinkholes. Next slide, please. We also have, because of the flooding and the age of the building, leaks in our roof. So you'll see this is upstairs in a heavy maintenance facility where the offices are. We have constantly been changing the drop ceiling tiles. So this image was taken after a storm. Just want you to know that this is something that is an ongoing activity, replacing the drop ceiling tiles. And because of the age of our roof, one may think, well, why don't you just go up there and change it? We have to manage how we address the roof issues, because as soon as someone goes up there and applies pressure, it creates new cracks in the roof. So we have now prioritized addressing the bigger holes and damages so that we don't have these smaller needs creating bigger issues. Next slide, please. Here we're showing an image of our current training facility. I know it's hard to see because of the subtitles, but we have a space. This space here is really designed for us to train our staff on how to repair vehicles, but you can't really get a bus into this bay because it's very narrow. So a part of what we're asking for in our new facility would be to have adequate space for the training, but this is our current training room. Next slide, please. Because of our lack of space, we also have several pods on our campus where we store different parts and tools that we need outside of the actual facility because we don't have the space internally. What I want to say, and I consistently say, that the team has not used the fact that our facility is old and it's past its useful life as a deterrent to keeping our service out on the road and ensuring that we're maintaining our vehicles. We're doing the best with what we can, and we're being creative. And what I like to say is it'll be great for our team to be creative in a new space, and it'll be amazing what types of new innovative things they come up with because they're very talented. Next slide, please. This is an image, I guess you could say, of our existing bus bays with some buses in here. And what I want to point out, and hopefully you can see this on the image, is the height of the roof line. So if you look between, or the ceiling, if you look between the top of the vehicles and where the top of the ceiling is in the facility, you'll see the vehicle under number 16. It has a little white top. That's a CNG vehicle. So those CNG vehicles have a higher height because that's where the CNG equipment is on top. Because of the height of that vehicle, you can't really crank the bus up to go underneath it to do the mechanical work. So here's a situation where either a mechanic has to just, I would say, I don't know the technical word, so I'm going to say hitch the bus up higher. I'm sure that is not the word that they use. And they have to go underneath the vehicle, whereas if you were to take your car to your mechanic, typically they can push a button, the vehicle goes up high, and they can stand underneath it. We can't do that. In addition, you may see some little striping underneath the vehicle, the first one under 16. So those were cutouts that we used to have so that you could kind of go underneath, but because of contaminants, we had to close those or seal those over, and we could not continue to use those little cutouts to go underneath the vehicle. So it just creates additional time to repair a vehicle, whereas if you could, if we had the right height, we could actually do the mechanical work in a more efficient way. Next slide, please. This is an image of the facility. So the maintenance facility, where you repair the vehicles and all of that labor work is done on the main level. And then upstairs are the offices for the team that does all the analysis and the reporting. It's not ADA compliant, So the only way to get upstairs are through these stairs. There are no bathrooms up here either. So again, this is something that needs to be rectified. We actually had a staff person who had a hip replacement surgery, so it took her some time to even be able to get back to her office upstairs because, again, there isn't any escalator, elevator, or vertical circulation outside of the steps. Next slide, please. So in a nutshell, what we're requesting is matching funds. FDOT had $25 million over the next 5 years that are already allocated toward HART through a block grant. And we have worked with FDOT to reprioritize those dollars to be used for the heavy maintenance facility. And we're asking for support from the county in a not to exceed $15 million match of the FDOT dollars. And the way the FDOT state grant dollars work, we have to have a local match of their $25 million in order to access their $25 million. And again, we're anticipating that the construction period to be over a 5-year period, so we would just need those dollars over a 5-year horizon. Being able to build this new facility will do more than what we have currently. Yes, it'll allow us to rectify some of the challenges that were pointed out in this slide presentation, but it'll also allow us to expand capacity. You may recall that earlier this calendar year, the Tampa Bay Partnership had a study on access to opportunity, connection between jobs and transit. And in their study, they mentioned that if we focus specifically on local service, that we could have an increase in job access for up to 29%. And two of the areas that they focused on in this study as far as providing more local service and having a greater impact on local job access was in southern Hillsborough County and in Town and Country. And we recognize that we don't have robust service right now in those locations, but we also recognize that because of the capacity of our existing facility, we can only accommodate the vehicles that we have now. In order to add more service and provide more frequent service, we need to, at a minimum, double our existing fleet, which is around 140 buses, and then also be able to hire more operators to provide that service. But having this heavy maintenance facility that has a capacity to add more vehicles to allow us to be more efficient in our timing to get vehicles in and out, and also provide an environment where our employees can work in a safe, clean environment that is ADA compliant will also allow us to get to the next step. So again, thank you for the opportunity to present to you, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you so much for coming down here and doing such a great job explaining the need for this, and especially thanks for reminding us about the Tampa Bay Partnerships study that pointed out how the lack of transit is holding us back in our economy and jobs and helping our whole county to move and get this important piece into our transportation system, which everybody knows is bogging down badly in large areas of our county. It's hard to look at this, the state of this integral piece of our HART Transit Agency, this maintenance and operations building, and see that, as you put it, it has passed its useful life and is not ADA compliant. I mean, we have to fix it and replace this building, but also the new building will be able to accommodate our planned transition to electric buses, and we cannot move into the future of clean energy transit without replacing this building. And it will also house a regional training center that we're planning for. And this also will provide workforce development and create new job opportunities. But replacing this building is an all-hands-on-deck effort. And we are right on the verge of being able to apply for a federal grant, but in order to do that, we have to put this local funding in place. So replacing this whole building will require all of us, the federal grant, the FDOT grant, our county and city partners. Meanwhile, the TPO, our Transportation Planning Organization, just voted unanimously to support this grant application and to put $25 million of our TPO funding towards this effort. So we are packaging this together with everybody, and this $15 million we're asking for the county today, which will be spread out over the next 5 years, not all in one lump, is our share of our commitment. If we're committed to transit, then this is how we show that and put our money where our mouth is. The TPO, by the way, is a very broad-based agency, including representatives from state, all 3 cities, and our county, as well as various other transit agencies that in our area that all unanimously voted to support this and put their money here. And so this is our share, and I think that's all I want to say before I make the motion, which I'll make the motion to, it's a 2-part motion, approve providing a letter of support to HART, committing up to $15 million in a local match for a Federal Transit Administration grant application for the construction of a new $100 million heavy maintenance facility. And this funding will serve as part of the planned federal, state, and local sources for the project to replace the current heavy maintenance facility. And part 2 is to approve a budget amendment to appropriate the $15 million in commercial paper, and repayment and or replacement funding of the commercial paper will be determined through future years' budget processes. It is anticipated that payments of the $15 million would be spread over the 5-year construction for the project.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Overman. I'll move now to Commissioner Myers. You're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. LeGrand, for giving us an excellent overview of what the new facility would look like. And I appreciate you taking the time to leverage and talk with other organizations and agencies regarding fund. And as we had our conversation on yesterday, the City of Tampa is one that you're planning to speak with today regarding to support this project and adding perhaps some funding for this grant. As I mentioned to you, in the City of Tampa, I see HART buses all day long from one side going east, west, and wherever I turn, there's a HART bus. So therefore, I strongly encourage to really negotiate with the city to put some funding where their mouth is to support the residents of the City of Tampa that rides the HART bus. And secondly, I plan to champion the 1% sales tax coming in January going forward. And as we all know, that HART has been listed as a recipient. And so, and County Attorney Christine, you might need to help me out with this. I know we're saying we want to vote for the $15 million, and that's all good. I'm not knocking that. But I would like to see HART repay the county the $15 million if the 1% sales tax pass, and that you give us our money back, meaning Hillsborough County, not the board members, okay? So I want to make that clear. So do I need to make a substitute motion when that, so that I want to have it on record? So when we do the agreement, county administrator wise, and we have the sales tax pass next year, that is a goal to get it passed. And I plan to champion to get it passed next year. I do want HART to fund Hillsborough County our money back. So help me out with that.
So there is an agreement coming back, correct? So yes, we could work with HART and try to work in those provisions when the agreement comes back for your consideration.
I'll second that as an amendment to the main motion, if that's what it is.
That's the motion.
Okay.
Is that HART refund the county the $15 million that they're asking for today? And if the 1% sales tax is passed in 2022, then we'll take our money, our $15 million or whatever the county has given to HART, we're going to take it off the top and it be included in the contract.
Okay, we have a amendment to the motion, and we can, made by Commissioner Myers, seconded by Commissioner White, and
Can I make a comment to the motion?
Yes, I was just about to go there. And we have, and did you want to comment first,
If I could,
Ms. Wise?
Because this is spread over 5 years, it's anticipated that we probably wouldn't have even paid it just yet. And in Commissioner Smith's backup, it does mention the surtax. If there's some other revenue source, then it would substitute this obligation. So that could be, so it's all consistent with what is in the background for Commissioner Smith's item. But just practically, we probably wouldn't have paid the money yet, but we would, of course, codify that in the agreement that would be coming before you. So it may be covered already, is what I'm saying.
Commissioner Overman.
And this actually addresses what I was going to say as well as the amended motion. You know, in the backup, it does indicate that the interlocal agreement would include a clause addressing the potential elimination of Hillsborough County's continued financial commitment should a new transportation surtax or other funding source become available, which could meet the local matching requirement before the project is completed. So it's there in the original item. That being said, part of the reason why we're here is because we don't have the surtax money that voters approved, and that it does require a local commitment. So, for example, the American Rescue Plan dollars are to help address, recovering communities and those communities of concern, but those aren't local dollars. They couldn't be used for this particular purpose. So the only place we have is in the capital revenues that are generated within this county to qualify for the matching of this effort. So without a surtax, a future one, there isn't any way that we currently have the revenues set aside for meeting the operating opportunities that are necessary to serve our citizens in Hillsborough County using transit. And we recognize how incredibly important economic mobility is on our transit system. So thank you, Ms. LeGrand, for coming to us and helping us understand why it's critically important that we make this investment at this time. And we'll support this letter of support, as I did with the TPO folks and everybody else. So thank you.
Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Thank you. And just a question for Ms. LeGrand, because as Ms. Wise pointed out, the backup to the item does include this clause right in the front that says the interlocal agreement would include a clause addressing the potential elimination of Hillsborough County's continued financial commitment, which, as we noted, wouldn't have even started yet, should a new transportation surtax or other new funding source become available, which could meet the local matching requirement before the project is completed. And as Ms. Beck noted, we're going to be bringing that interlocal agreement back, at which time we could hash this out if it, but I want to make sure that whatever we do today is going to support the grant application that is due November 19. So, Ms. LeGrand, are you hearing anything like from this amendment, which to me sounds redundant? I don't think we need this, but is there anything here that if we put this on would maybe cause alarm bells in the grant application process?
So thank you for the opportunity again. And I'd like to share that, before we got to this place where I'm here before you today, I did have several conversations with Ms. Wise, and we worked collectively to come up with the terms. And I feel comfortable with, if we did have additional funding, that we could come back to the county and move forward without the county's dollars. I know I'm new here in this region. I'm a new CEO. I don't believe in asking other people for money that we have ourselves to do the job that we're supposed to be doing. So that is not the posture that we will be taking at HART. However, we are in a position now where we do need to move this facility forward, and in order to gain access to the $25 million that is available, that has already been programmed for HART, which was programmed for HART prior to us asking for it to be reprioritized for the heavy maintenance facility. Since FDOT was willing and did go forward with reprioritizing those block grant dollars, it now presents an opportunity that if we have the matching dollars, we can show a more competitive grant application for federal dollars. So what we'll be able to do with your approval is to show the federal government that we have 3/4 of the money that's required to build the project, and we're asking them to help us with the other portion. That being said, the TPO dollars are federal dollars, so we could not use those dollars to match because they are federal dollars. And typically you cannot have more than 80% of federal dollars in a project. In addition, for this specific grant application, we'll be requesting over 50% of the project to be funded by federal dollars. So just wanted to keep that in, out here in the open, that we are looking at a 50-50 match, 50% federal and then 50% local, of which 50 of that 50% local is really state dollars, which requires our quarter, of the entire project coming from local dollars. So to answer your easy question, a long way, yes, we're comfortable with the language. Ms. Wise and myself and our teams worked collectively to come up with these terms, and we feel very confident that they'll be acceptable.
But what I'm really asking is, I think the spirit of the amendment is actually already written into the item before you, and that it will be coming back again in the interlocal. And so I kind of don't want to mess with any of the language that has been worked out so carefully here that will be moving to the federal grant application, unless unless it were to just be kind of redundant belt and suspenders. Is there?
If it's acceptable by the commission, the language that's in the original amendment or resolution covers the fact that if we get additional funds, that we would not rely on the county's dollars. We would utilize the other funds, if it's through the surtax or any other funding source.
Thank you. So I would ask if you all could be comfortable knowing that what you intend has been already included in this, rather than amending the motion with any extra language. So thank you.
Commissioner White and then Commissioner Myers.
Thank you. I don't think the amendment is redundant at all. From what I'm hearing in the language that's been presented to the board so far, it says that funding would cease if we have a surtax in place. What Commissioner Myers' amendment does, as I understand it, is to say that to the extent that we have given any money to HART and we then have a subsequent surtax, that would need to be paid back. And to me, that's a different issue. And I support that. Commissioner Myers, I know you're going to, really work hard on the 2022 referendum. You're going to champion that, but it's at least theoretically possible that the voters could say no in 2022 and turn around and say yes in 2024. And at that point, we most certainly would have provided some money to HART. And, HART stands to potentially receive hundreds of millions of dollars if a transportation surtax referendum passes. And look, we're not flush with cash here at the county. Just look at our needs with respect to transportation. So, if that happens and HART, suddenly has hundreds of millions of dollars coming into the coffers as a result of a transportation surtax, I think they should pay any and all funds that we've provided related to this back. So I get it. What it says right now is that if a surtax comes to be, that funding would cease. But I do support the amendment in saying that in addition to that, anything that's already been given should be returned. I don't think it's redundant. I don't think it hurts HART's position with respect to applying for this federal grant. If there's someone with expertise with federal grants that would disagree with me and tell me that I'm wrong, please step up and do so now. But I don't see any harm in this amendment. My second stands if Commissioner Myers is going to leave it on the floor, and I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me be clear, because what I stated is not to be included in the grant. So I think that's where we have a misunderstanding. What I stated was to be included in the contract with the county. You already have your grant to move forward. And we're going to support, and I'm going to support your grant going forward and voting for your grant and your letter of support. But also at the same time, I'm saying, and made the substitute motion, that I'd like for HART to pay the county back if the 1% transportation tax should pass, in which I plan to champion to get it passed. So those are two different issues, in my honest opinion.
May I respond?
Sure.
Everything
I'm sorry, I can't say sure. Madam Chair has to go.
Yes, okay. Everything that we decide on today and vote on will be included in the grant application. That's a requirement. So we'll have to show documentation that it was approved, and if there are any amendments, that will also go in the application. So I just want to share that.
And I don't see anyone else ready to speak, but I just want to, first of all, I am, as someone who's been on the HART board for 4.5 years and have seen this need that we've had, this facility has been in terrible shape. We've known that since 2017 when I first was on the board in December 2016. And I heard about this and it was presented to us, and it was very high. At the meeting, we were urged in early 2017 at some point that this was a critical need, and that this was very, very urgent, and that we really couldn't even begin to think about providing better service, about doing all the things that we wanted to do for this community without the very basic infrastructure of having a heavy maintenance facility. As you said, that has been, I think it was a truck operation center in the 50s at some point. And it has never actually been adequate for what we've needed, but now it is certainly, it is in just terrible shape. The county, I'm just so pleased that you have taken this to go and get community to put together what we need to start on this right away. And I don't want to see anything but full-throated support from our commission, as there was at our TPO, to do this. The funds for this can go forward. We can deal with any issues that come back after this. But there is, in this entire region, throughout all of Tampa Bay, all the other counties, everywhere else, there is no need more critical in order to move people than replacing this heavy maintenance facility. There's no need that is more critical that we have. And I'll tell you, I went to an EDC, I was at the EDC meeting yesterday, and they were shaking their heads saying that, we're just being flooded with businesses and everything else that wants to come here to Tampa, to Hillsborough County, that are interested in coming here to set up their business, to bring jobs, good jobs, and over again, they're they're having to answer the difficult question about transit. And our lack of investment in transit. And I will also state that every other county, but for Pinellas and Hillsborough County, in the entire state of Florida that I'm familiar with, and no one has ever told me this is wrong, Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Gainesville, Tallahassee, all the Sarasota, everywhere, but for Hillsborough and Pinellas County, are investing hundreds of millions of dollars every year out of countywide dollars. That's how they fund their operations, maintenance, and everything else. And we have never done that and been grossly underfunded. And as I've said before, the most underfunded system in the country, transit system in the country. Bar none, and not by just a small amount, but by a big amount. This is for serving the residents of this county and making sure that we move forward. This is not a big ask, and I'm sure we can come back after and look if the tax successfully moves forward. So I would like to give wholehearted and absolute, unequivocal support for the proposal that you and Ms. Wise, thank you, have worked so hard on putting together, in which all the other agencies, FDOT has come forward, the TPO has come forward. I know that the city will come forward and be supporting this, and it is so critically important. So I'll be there in all ways to support what we have on the table. Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to cause where you cannot by my motion. So if HART is granted the funding application, I would like to make a motion after HART receives its funding and you advise us that you have received your funding, then we'll make the motion for the 1% sales tax at that time. Because we have it in the backup, but the public doesn't know and cannot read our backup, okay? So that's why I'm bringing it forth. Everyone doesn't read it, and so I want to make sure that when we move forward next year with the champion the 1% sales tax, and I hope you get your money as soon that you can let us know at the same time too, and I wish you the best in this endeavor.
Thank you. So are you withdrawing the amendment?
Yes, until they receive the funding, yes, until HART receive the funding and notify the county that you have received the funding that we are moving forward with today, then we'll come back and I will champion leading that motion to ask HART to refund the county. It's not a motion today, clearly. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead, Ms.
Just to
Warner.
clarify, I just want to ensure that I'm understanding this correctly. Once we receive funding because the surtax passes, or what funding are you?
Your grant application.
Okay, so
I think we can just move this, and we can deal with this after. Commissioner Overman, did you have any comments to add?
Yeah, so you're withdrawing your motion, your amendment?
Yes, because Ms. LeGrand said it had to be included in the application, and I don't want where this county cannot receive funding in the application.
Okay.
So that's why I'm removing it. I want us to go 100% to get the money, to get the facility that we needed. That's what I'm supporting.
I appreciate that, and I do think it's important that we make this very clear. We did have in the backup that there was going to be a memorandum of agreement. What I don't want to see is anything that would impact the grant application nor the financing of any of this process, because when we say, well, we'll give you the money, but we're really going to take it back, that impacts our rating, that impacts our financing, that impacts risk. And I want to make sure it's clear. We have no hesitation of giving away monies to companies that want to come here to have an incentive for them to be able to bring jobs to this community, when transit is a way of investing in our community to be competitive for creating jobs in this community. So I don't have the issue that's been raised here about whether or not we get paid back or not. when we have surtax monies, because these, even with the previous surtax, there was, with a strategic plan that HART will be building for us, there will not be sufficient assets to meet all of our goals for Hillsborough County to remain competitive in the state of Florida. If we really look at where we're going and how fast we're growing in this region. So I am heartily supporting the original resolution or recommendation to provide a letter of support the way it stands right now. So thank you very much for bringing it out and the request, and I look forward to seeing the board's support.
Okay. And thank you, Commissioner Myers, for withdrawing that. And at this time, I see no further discussion. And if we can please have it was a motion by Commissioner Smith, and it was seconded by Commissioner Overman. And if we could please have a roll call vote.
Chair Kim?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
There you go, Ms. LeGrand. That was a unanimous vote by our BOCC in support of HART. That's
Thank you so
very
much.
good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Wise, for, I know you worked on this as well. So thank you to both of you for doing so much for our community. And with that, Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We're now able to move to item B4 at 10:30 time certain. This is to adopt the proposed Hillsborough County State Legislative Program, and Jim Taylor is here to present this item.
Good morning, Commissioner. It's Jim Taylor, your Government Relations Division Director. I seek approval for item B4, which is the 2022 proposed Hillsborough County State Legislative Program. Again, the program consists of your appropriation requests, your policy priorities, as well as your policy positions. As is the practice of our team, we will continue to send daily updates during the 60-day session, which, as a reminder, starts January 11th and will end, hopefully, right on time on March 11th. A big thank you to directors, executive team, and, of course, the commissioners who assisted in creating this program. This is your program. This is your priorities. At any time, this can be amended should you choose. Members of our internal team, as well as members of our lobbying team, are here to answer any remaining questions that you may have. But with that, I seek your approval.
Thank you. Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. And thank you so very, very much for putting this together and meeting with all of us to help us understand how we need to work with our state legislature and moving forward the items for Hillsborough County. I did have a question, however. Previously, when you and I discussed our priorities list, and I am thrilled to see all the items that I asked you to put on there, so I don't want to appear greedy here, but there was an item that I did want to make sure that we focused on as a county. As we have just recently authorized using approximately $90 million, a little bit more than $90 million towards septic to sewer conversions and infrastructure. I had suggested in my recommendation for prioritization that we include as part of our legislative platform a request for prioritization on septic to sewer funding from the state. The reason that is important to me, and I'm wearing another hat when I put on my affordable housing hat, Hillsborough County is a donor county when it comes to the dock stamps that go to the state for funding in a significant manner. As of September 2021, we had contributed over $300 million of dock stamp revenues to go. Some portion of that goes to the Sadowski Trust, which has been now permanently swept to septic to sewer conversions. And while I'm going to ask staff to assist us in discerning how that would end up flying back to us, if my guesses are right, given that we're going to be working on trying to come up with a good formula for what that should look like, it is critically important, even though it's a grant application program, that we signal to the state that the approximate $80 to $90 million that we send to the state in dock stamp monies that is now going to the septic to sewer effort should come back to Hillsborough County, especially when we've chosen to make a $90 million investment in our community because we have such a deficit in revenues and capital improvement dollars to address the septic to sewer issue that we must address quickly in order to protect the health of the citizens of Hillsborough County. So I was curious, Mr. Taylor, what would be the process for considering that to be added to the legislative platform program?
And for clarification, are you looking for, again, directive as to how we go about having those discussions with Tallahassee regarding, again, we are a donor county, because specifically, you know, when it comes to the dock stamp, that is the purview of, you know, of the state. We absolutely hear you and your colleagues loud and clear, not only this year, but in years past regarding the Sadowski Fund and of course septic to sewer. And we have those conversations with current leaders and with incoming leaders to say, hey, here's how we kind of see that inequity playing out. You know, what are areas that we could find common ground? Is that what you're looking for? Are you looking for something different?
Well, thank you for the clarification. Basically, right now, it's my understanding, and I may be incorrect on this, and someone, if staff can help me with it, it would be great. But it's my understanding that the septic to sewer system may be a grant application process, a competitive grant application process that hopefully would have the criteria of indicating the size of need and the economic impact and health impacts of having a significant deficit in local funding that our taxpayers are paying for septic to sewer conversions. But I'm not sure that's how it works. So if it's not in the legislation that would give a local assessment of need as part of the application process, then it needs to be, in my opinion, in the statute, given that we've allocated this much money towards this effort. But my goal here is to make sure that when we, our local taxpayers, are paying these revenues and tax revenues, that we have a decent, fair, important choice of indicating the need in Hillsborough County, and we have the greatest access or opportunity for success in having those monies come back to our local taxpayers. So I'm you know, whatever we can do to get it, that's great. But if we don't say it that we really want to develop a strategy for making sure we get what we send up, I want to see that happen if it's possible.
Absolutely, and I think we can definitely do that with the program that we have, and like I say, we'll continue to have those conversations with current leadership, as we've talked about in our briefings. Incoming leadership that has a little bit more deference to local government that hopefully will allow for, to your point, to be heard from Tallahassee. But yes, it is, you know, county staff can absolutely look into the grant process that is now established through DEP that we recently just received $20 million, which was the largest water grant we've ever received. Can still absolutely, you know, go after that grant. You know, the good thing is we've got a good amount of money so far on septic to sewer. I know we've got a ways to go, but we have a good foundation, a good start. So if staff still wanted to go after that septic to sewer grant process through DEP that, yes, is now funded in thirds by the dock stamp, they can absolutely do that. And we can concurrently have those conversations. Our, you know, lobbying teams on here right now, you know, when we meet with leadership to let them know, hey, by the way, as you look to tweak these grants and how we fund these grants or these trust funds, FYI, here's specific to Hillsborough. I don't know what other large counties are saying, but here's specific to Hillsborough. We might want to consider, when counties are donor counties, how to retweak the formula or however they determine to fund these grant programs. So I hope that answers what you're asking.
Well, it gets me closer. I mean, other than asking for a direct appropriations request of having whatever monies we sent that go to the septic to sewer come right back to Hillsborough County. And I don't sure that is something that would be easily done, but I don't mind asking at all, because we're very clear in our other appropriation requests, and I'm not sure if it's possible in the statute, given how the septic to sewer trust was set up. But let me ask Ms. Wise, can you give me, and I know it's right off the bat, or maybe one of staff can answer this question, but given where we are in the goal of doing reasonable septic to sewer conversions, I guess in the urban service area and areas that would be subject to possibly adding an environmental compromise to our shores and our sea level rise challenges, do you have a number of that we have as a goal, say over the next, 5 to 10 years, that we need in Hillsborough County?
So I think if George Cassidy is on, he could probably best answer that. But the number is more than 3 digits, in the 100 million plus, I would imagine. But I would ask George to please respond.
Okay.
I don't want to give you the wrong
If George is available,
number.
I mean, I just want the board to understand the order of magnitude here when we're talking about what we're sending up, and $20 million is all we got back. George?
So, hi, Commissioner. George Cassidy, Public Utilities. So is your question, what is the magnitude of our entire septic to sewer program?
Yes, sir.
We're looking at approximately 26,000 homes to convert, and in the ballpark of $600 million total.
Okay. So $600 million, and we sent up $300 million worth of dock stamp revenue this year. Some of it went to affordable housing, but some of it went to septic to sewer. And that's just in 9 months of our year. So however it needs to be worded, we have a significant need. And if making the case that we have that such a large need is part of the appropriation request, I'd be very happy to see it added to this legislative program specifically, rather than try and figure it out.
Commissioner Smith would like, I'll just say I think that you raise a excellent point, and maybe that's the way to talk about it. And I haven't heard it put quite that way. The dollars we give, I mean, I know that we're a donor county, but when you put it in raw numbers, the actual dollars we give and the dollars we receive, I think it would be good for our Hillsborough county legislators to understand and know that, and for others in the state to know it and to have it in just that language. So you might have some support. I know Commissioner Smith, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I do want to just support and also appreciate your, you're putting it this way, your perspective of how much we're sending up. And I think it is very important to raise today with our lobbying team as they go to Tallahassee to point out that we're sending $90 million, whatever it is, that we're sending that up, and it's going to other communities to use for septic to sewer. And meanwhile, we're doing everything we can. As Mr. Cassidy pointed out, there's 26,000 homes in our county inside the urban service area. Okay, there's another 99,000 homes outside where, that's outside the urban service. But inside, we have 120-ish communities from Carrollwood to Brandon to Gibsonton and Ruskin and Waimama and a lot of places, old communities here in our urban service area that are on failing septic systems. And as we, discussed this morning, that's polluting our waterways. And as you said, it's also has health impacts. But because we are right now investing the $20 million in Gibsonton and another $70 million from ARP, and that is not. We are going to be out there working, tearing up streets, hooking up, tearing down septic tanks and hooking them up to new sewer systems. While we're at it right now, in the next 2 years, it's the time for us to be getting that money and doing that at the same time for neighborhoods and communities when we can do it all at once, rather than be shipping off our dollars to other communities to start, piecemeal there. If we could have it all here and be doing this all, consistently, concurrently, it just would be so much more effective and efficient than shipping off our dollars for somebody else to use in another county. So I just wanted to kind of pile on there, and thank you very much for pointing it out.
Commissioner Overman, did you want to make an amendment? Or motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'd like to ask our legislative team to bring back language that covers a lot of the conversation we've had today. I think staff might be able to assist with some numbers to make sure that we're adequately reflecting the need and the revenues that we send up, so that could be a little more specific in the legislative platform. But other than that, I would like to go move forward on all the other items, because I'm very happy with everything else on the list. I just would like to make sure that this particular issue regarding septic to sewer funding, as well as the revenues that we send as a donor county, is shared with our legislative team in order to make sure that we get in a decent appropriation.
So that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Overman, seconded by Commissioner Smith.
Madam Chair, point of order. Does the motion include approval of item B4, and then in addition to that, the things that you've included? Okay.
That's how I understood it to be. And with that, I don't see any other further discussion. Can we please do a roll call vote?
Chair Kim?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. Ms. Wise.
And thank you. Excuse me. So sorry about that. The next item is Commissioner Overman's item F3. This is to receive additional information related to item B3 regarding the resurfacing of road projects of 285 lane miles.
Thank you. Thank you, Board, for considering this additional information. I did everything I could to try and get it in by the deadlines, and it was on the way, but didn't quite have it. But I want to start out by clearly acknowledging the dire need for resurfacing through our entire county. It is clearly a major issue that we have, and it is a very important issue to all of our citizens. I appreciate the staff's hard work in developing the list of items of resurfacing projects that we're going to consider in the next item. And I know that they've worked very hard at addressing our most pressing and critical needs. However, I think it's important to recognize, or essential that we recognize, the opportunity to discuss how we invest in our communities when we're making these appropriation or investments in our community. I'm cognizant that the federal stimulus and relief packages are one-time investments. The American Rescue Plan is exactly that. We need to be very thoughtful about how we use these funds and how they're distributed around the county. The American Rescue Plan was not supported in a bipartisan way. It was President Biden's goal of assisting our communities that were impacted by the pandemic and our economy as it struggled to recover. It is challenging to approve the item following this with about 66% of it going to 2 districts, primarily District 2 and District 4. And if Mr. Brewer could actually show the map, what I had been asking for and waiting for was the map that we saw that showed where our transportation projects were within the county. What I asked for was an overlay that showed environmental justice communities. In other words, those communities that have historically been underserved. Can you bring up that map, sir? There. I think that is Ms. Alden's presentation. Pardon me?
That's staff's presentation for B3.
Okay.
If you have something else,
yeah,
that's not it. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Brewer has, I believe the team has a single map that shows all the project lists, not as wonderfully as detailed as the staff presentation, but is just a snapshot of all of those maps that we'll see in the next item. Hopefully that can come up, and I'm sure Lucas Martinez can actually get the staff's attention to show it to us. But when it comes up, when it's available, I'll be able to come back to it. Just this Monday, President Joe Biden signed into law the $1 trillion infrastructure plan, which is designated to create jobs across the country by dispersing billions of dollars to state and local governments to fix crumbling bridges and roads by expanding broadband internet access to millions of America. The good news is that we now have, which we didn't have when we looked at this project list and the American Rescue Plan that we approved back on November 3rd. We didn't have an infrastructure plan that was signed in a bipartisan way. The American Rescue Plan fact sheet, however, says included in the backup material, which is included in your background material, will build a bridge to an equitable economic recovery. As you may recall, back in June of 2020, we agreed to move forward on an equity profile to analyze our policies, to discern if we are making decisions in an equitable way, to support not only our current efforts, but also to address where inequities in our policies may not be working as well. And I think that's important, and that was actually passed 6-1. Thank you, Commissioner Smith, for that second. So I'm very thankful for that effort, and we're moving forward on that profile. And I'm really glad to see that happen. Today's vote on how we spend $35 million on resurfacing our streets is where we back our actions with county funds addressing our $700 million need for resurfacing. And with that, Beth Alden is going to assist us in presenting a short presentation on what the Planning Commission and the Transportation Planning Organization adopted as a means of addressing equity and discrimination in our policies when it comes to transportation planning. Is Ms. Alden available? Okay. Oh, the map I was referencing is on the Elmo. Is that on the Elmo? I know it's very difficult to see, but this is basically all the projects lists, and it shows the blue lines show all the different projects, transportation resurfacing projects that are being proposed in the next item. The green areas represent our analysis of our communities of concern. Those that, in my opinion, have been possibly had the greatest impact associated with the pandemic and the economic fallout of the pandemic. So I think in looking at utilizing the American Rescue Plan dollars, that lens needs to be something we can adopt. Not having the equity profile back yet, unfortunately, hasn't given us that template. But our TPO and our Planning Commission have created a framework. And Ms. Alden can give us an idea of what that looks like. Ms. Alden?
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I'll be very brief. I have just a couple of highlights of the work that Commissioner Overman referenced. This is new and emerging work in considering equity in transportation plans, and it is coordinated with the county's work on creating an equity profile that just kicked off a few months ago. Last year, our board asked us to step up our game with considering equity in transportation plans and how we can do better. And that led to the creation of this plan, which includes demographic mapping, community engagement, quantitative analysis, as well as reviewing our agency procedures. And it also documents how historical decisions in local planning have contributed to some of the different outcomes that our community members experience today. It documents the feedback that we got when we went out into a number of communities and asked how we can do better. And we consistently heard the experience of different neighborhoods being in different conditions. So in looking at what that meant for our transportation plans, we've done a couple of things in the quantitative analysis area, looking at the burdens of transportation investments fall more heavily on particular demographic groups. Do the benefits of transportation investments fall more or less on particular demographic groups? We've also been developing new ways to include equity in our prioritization of projects going forwards. So just a couple of quick examples. Looking overall at our performance at our county, there are different outcomes in some of our transportation performance measures, like risk of severe crashes and exposure to vehicle emissions. And just this past summer, with our update of our transportation improvement program, we reviewed how the investments in the next 5 years in the TIP are distributed by percent of miles. And so it was interesting that we found that our good repair projects are perhaps not as proportionately well distributed in racial minority neighborhoods and in ethnic minority neighborhoods. And so we're coming back now to working with all of the local governments on how equity will be included in our prioritization method going forwards. And so this is an area that is under development. And I'm going to unshare my screen. But we are happy to support the county's work in addressing equity.
Thank you, Ms. Alden. I truly appreciate that. And that's why I wanted to make sure this was included in our discussion today. Our transportation staff has done a great job of looking at the numbers, looking at the condition of our roads and looking at what it would take to get it done. And they've done exactly what we asked them to do. Find the projects, get the list out there. But our job is to really look at how we choose to invest in our communities, how we look at that decision to invest in our communities. And so I think it's incredibly important when we're considering investing American Rescue Plan dollars, that basically the president's guidance was to build a bridge to an equitable economic recovery, as well as our own board directive to shape a more inclusive economy for all. Led me to this backup material and asked for the map that we saw earlier to see where is all this going and where are we choosing to invest these dollars that are one-time dollars when we now have an infrastructure a national federal infrastructure plan. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention so that you understood the work that many of the planning organizations and many of us that sit on those boards, that we've adopted those policies, that we make sure that we're not forgetting those policies when we're making decisions here at the BOCC. So I look forward to working with, collaboratively with the county, the Planning Commission, and the Transportation Planning Organization staff to ensure that we utilize these one-time federal funds in an inclusive and equitable manner. I will make a motion after the presentation by staff so that they can help us understand the scope of the work that's being recommended and help us understand their methodology for making the recommendations for the projects that we'll consider in the next item. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you. Ms. Alden, if you will present your final slide once again. And did you do a breakdown as to which local government entity would be responsible for the infrastructure in those various scenarios, the county versus the cities?
Right. So this is a sum total of the projects that are in the CIPs from the local governments, as well as the Department of Transportation. So this is very much a big picture look.
So sum total means that, you know, that the city of Tampa could be responsible for a lot of that infrastructure. Certainly Hillsborough County is responsible for some of it. And in the cases of Temple Terrace and Plant City, it would be their responsibility. So those are sum totals. You did not do a breakdown of county versus municipal assets. Is that correct?
Not in these numbers, no. No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, I think that's incredibly important to note. And Madam Chair, I'd like to jump right back into the queue and be recognized first after staff presents on item B3.
Okay, and at this time, Commissioner Overman, did you want?
Yeah, I'll just make one brief comment. I did take into consideration the county's responsibility when looking at my list of surface projects. For example, I had asked about Waters Avenue, and it's on our major roads project, but it didn't make the list. And it happens to be in one of these areas that of the map of green of a consideration. It happens to also be in the city, but it is a county road. So that's why I thought it might be a real good idea to take another look, not to criticize the list that has been put together, but just to take another look at it from an equity perspective. And I'll stop there.
Okay, and at this time, Ms. Wise, are we moving to?
Madam
ready.
Chair, my hand's raised.
Oh, is this Commissioner Hagan? Okay,
Yes.
you're recognized.
All right, thank you. And I'll be brief. I do appreciate Commissioner Overman highlighting the importance of equity as well as President Biden's goals for the ARP funding. However, at the same time, Ms. Alden did state that this analysis is under development and needs more work. And so I, for one, know how much staff has worked tirelessly on preparing this list. And candidly, I do believe that our staff, with all due respect to Ms. Alden and the TPO, understands our needs better than any other entity. And so we do have an enormous backlog of projects, a dire need, as Commissioner Overman stated. Some have been on our unfunded list for over a decade. And now we do have a funding source that will significantly address our needs. I know I have neighborhoods in my district, I'm sure the other district commissioners do as well, that have been begging us to help them for years. So I think we owe it to our residents to get moving on this as quickly as possible. I'm sure with funding in the $35 million range, it will likely require some procurement. We all know that it's been taking months and months for anything to get out of procurement these days on RFPs. So realistically, even when we approve these monies, it's likely a lot of it will not be invested for months to come. So I would just encourage us to move forward today on our next round of funding. If the study or analysis is complete, I'm more than happy to consider the equity suggestions in that. But I would encourage us to move forward with our list today. Thank you.
Ms. Wise.
Thank you. We're able to move to item B3. And Commissioners, this is a continuation. You all requested that we come back at when you approve this item at your September 23rd meeting to set aside $35 million of the revenue replacement portion of the American Rescue Plan dollars. And so we move forward with that. At your last meeting, you did approve about $100 million worth of projects. I know that we talked a lot about that, including public safety, especially fire rescue, food insecurity. Those contracts were on this agenda, so thank you for approving that. This agenda. We had affordable housing. We had some stormwater improvements in the Palm River area. And then we, of course, had our major septic to sewer, as you all were previously discussing. So we have, put forward a lot of dollars, and we're going to get those moving. And as I've committed to you, we are going to be reporting on that so that you know the status of our projects and the public knows the status of our projects. So as those move forward. So today, the other piece of that was to present to you the $35 million of road resurfacing projects throughout the county. And so with that, John Lyons will go forward with that. As a reminder, and some of you were just discussing some of this, American Rescue Plan dollars, we did receive the dollars. The cities did receive their own dollars. In this case, once again, different than the way the CARES dollars were, where we received it and did share with the cities, but the cities did receive their own in this matter. And we are working together with the cities as best as we can to coordinate our efforts accordingly. So with that, John Lyons, we'll turn it over to him to go through that PowerPoint.
I think you're muted, Mr. Lyons.
John, you're muted. I just muted myself. Excuse me. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for entertaining this item on resurfacing. We're pretty excited about it. This is a long time coming. This is the most amount of money we've had to do any resurfacing in a long time. Matter of fact, I think forever when it comes right down to it. I do have a short presentation to kind of talk about some of the processes and how we got to the projects that were identified. Next slide, please. So to begin with it, we have a continuous inspection and condition assessment process. We're on a 3-year cycle of inspecting every road in the county in our system, and that's a requirement per the Government Accounting Standards Board, the GASB 34, and that information is actually included in the comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR, that the clerk produces every year as well. So we stay on top of this, and we do a lot of assessment. The assessment includes looking at rutting, potholes, surface condition, cracking, that ultimately results in a pavement condition index. And this is the whole system. The 7,250 lane miles of road are broken down into 27,000 roadway segments. And those have been aggregated into neighborhoods for the local roads and in corridors for the major roads. And those segments run street to street on a block type of, and some segments are longer and some are shorter. This is a data-driven modeling to predict the future condition as well as to analyze and make a determination of what the existing conditions are. Those groups that, as the neighborhoods are grouped, obviously with 27,000 road segments, there's a whole variety of pavement conditions in there. Those aggregated groups then are, those numbers are averaged, and that's how the overall pavement condition of a neighborhood group would be determined, or on a corridor as well. And that's how those are ordered. We do that in neighborhood groupings because it's the most cost-effective way to do the paving. We don't want to pay a contractor to, come do 1,000 feet here and 2,000 feet there kind of thing to attack those segments. It's I don't think the community would be happy. It's just a real not cost-effective way to do that. Next slide, please. We've got a couple slides just back from our asset preservation workshop back at the end of May. 7,250 lane miles of roads, and that's you've seen this before. But also just to remind you, that the pavement condition does deteriorate over time, and it accelerates once it starts getting those cracks. The water starts getting into the base and starting to make the base failure. And as we move into the poor to very poor and serious to failed areas, the cost of pavement rejuvenation, resurfacing goes up significantly as well. Next slide, please. On our local roads, about 2/3 of the system are on the local roads, neighborhoods, and some of the less traveled roads in the county. Currently, we have about 26% of the road system, which is about 1,200 miles, lane miles, that fall into the poor to very poor to serious to failed condition. We spoke before that we wanted to have an ideal level of funding to be able to do about 240 lane miles per year of the system, to eventually over 10 years to bring the system into the condition as it's shown in the bottom of the slide. Next slide, please. So our 10-year resurfacing projects that we spoke of, the ideal funding level, we would get all these roadways that are shown in red accomplished over that 10-year period at about $25 million a year. Next slide. And without that recurring revenue source to do that, and based on what the budget projections were back in May, we'd get very little done accomplished over the next 10 years. Next slide, please. For the similar type slides for the major roads, about 2570 lane miles, or about 1/3 of the system. These roads are typically, you're seeing a higher volume of traffic, both trucks and cars, and they have a tendency to wear out just a little bit quicker, but they're also built a little bit heavier. We have about 18% of the roads that are in that poor to serious to failed condition, which is about 500 miles. Next slide, please. Our ideal funding level was to allocate about $20 million per year, 100 lane miles per year to bring the system back into the condition. And that gets us back into about a 25-year cycle on those roadways. Next slide. At the current funding level, back in May as well, is that very little would get done. Only 9 lane miles, or less than 10% of what we ideally need to do. Next slide. So as we moved into the ARP resurfacing plan, the one thing is, if you recall back on those other 2 slides, where when we talked about the 18% and the 26%, that amounts to about 1,700 lane miles of the system in total. With the $35 million of ARP funding, we'll be able to do about 286 of that. So it's about 1/6 of what the poor roads are in the county to be able to do that. So we have an abundance of projects to choose from, and we did use the ordering of the neighborhood groupings to accomplish that. This is a breakdown, is that we looked at the overall lane miles in each commissioner district. District 1 has 20%, District 2 has 30%, District 3, which has a lot of the city of Tampa and Temple Terrace, only has 10% of the system roads, and District 4, which is by far geography-wise the largest, has the largest amount of roads. We went into the ARP funding, and you can see the numbers of how they kind of worked out there. What we did do, just to let you know, is there were of this about 45 lane miles are in CDBG areas, and we have done CDBG paving over the last 11 years with funding, and it's been a few hundred lane miles of being able to do that. We did extract about 36 lane miles of areas in Ruskin, Gibsonton, Palm River, and Waimama, and we deferred those because we knew with the granting of the septic to sewer money, we needed to wait and see what was going to go on in those areas, because we didn't want to pave a road and then have a pipeline project come in and ruin that good work that was done. So we did remove about 36 lane miles of roadways and substitute other projects for that. So with this program, we would accomplish about 285 lane miles of roads. We'd do 8 major roadway corridors, 89 neighborhoods, and 32 areas of localized repairs. And that's the end of the presentation. So if you were to have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those.
Thank you. And at this time, Commissioner White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. First, it's important to note that we're talking about ARP revenue replacement dollars, not dollars from the other ARP categories. This plan was developed based upon the proportion of county assets in each of the 4 single-member districts. There is a sizable percentage set to be spent in District 4, and this percentage is in line with the percentage of assets in the sprawling communities of eastern and southern Hillsborough County. The people of southern and eastern Hillsborough County bared the brunt of the suburban sprawl we have experienced over the course of the past few decades. They are literally crying out for maintenance of the crumbling infrastructure in their area. If this project list passes, there are minority communities in District 4 that will benefit from this. There are farmers and ranchers and other economic engines that will benefit from this. There are commuters from sprawling communities who will benefit from this. And there are vulnerable elderly residents who will benefit from this. I know we need to do more, and that this appropriation merely scratches the surface. I know there's a push for another referendum, and I know there's a push for more mass transit options. But here and now, with respect to this appropriation, our credentialed experts who have prepared this item have done professional work. I want to promote equity in minority communities. In fact, I supported equity in minority communities when I voted recently for a stormwater appropriation to District 3 totaling $17.5 million at the expense of all 3 of the other single-member districts. Protecting vulnerable communities from the perils of flood, which is in the county government's wheelhouse, was the right thing to do from an equity standpoint. And I'll point out that we just committed $15 million to HART to address some of their aging infrastructure. But when it comes to roads and sidewalks, District 3 is a City of Tampa-centric district. Its percentage of county assets is smaller than the other single-member districts. The professionals on our staff saw to it, and through this item, that District 3 would receive its fair share plus some, while at the same time assuring that our extensive portfolio of road and sidewalk inventory across the county is attended to. If another referendum passes, I'm sure there will be an allocation to HART and to the City of Tampa that will allow us to further address disparities in minority communities. But today, we're being asked to spend replaced county revenues on our existing aging infrastructure. Our professional staff got this item right, and it would be wrong to amend this project list. But in hearing Commissioner Overman's concerns, I would like to offer a gesture to District 3 in the name of equity. So I'd like to offer the following motion, which has been vetted by Ms. Wise and her staff. And that motion is to approve item B3 and to allocate an additional $5 million to District 3.
Okay, we have a motion by
Second.
Commissioner White, and we have a second by Commissioner Myers. Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to that idea. But the reason I brought it up is I still think we need the equity review of the list. So I would like to ask if we could apply the equity profile against the list to identify where fairness is being recommended with the current list. Adding the $5 million might be of help, considering the response I got back to adding a portion of Waters, which is a county road that happens to be in the city, that is on our major roads list. But the response I got back was, it could be planned in fiscal 23, assuming the funding level is sufficient. So if that particular section, which is on our major road list, is $5 million, I'd be more than willing to support the motion that has been presented. But I have no way of knowing that. And I have no way of knowing that when we're investing American Rescue Plan dollars that are specifically to address the recovery, yes, they are replacement dollars, but they are specifically designed to help with the recovery of communities that have been impacted by this pandemic and the economic damage that it has caused. I have no doubt that we have a problem in, for example, District 4 because of the condition of the roads there, and yes, we need to invest there. My question is, making it the largest receiver of American Rescue Plan funding seems difficult to reconcile for me. So I would like to offer a substitute motion that we continue the item for 30 days, to direct staff to run it through the TPO lens toward equity, to ensure these one-time infrastructure investments are responsibly deployed in our community from not only an engineer and a financial perspective, because I respect the work that our staff has done in making this selections, but also to support the equitable economic recovery. If it needs to include the additional $5 million that Commissioner White has asked for a budgetary inclusion in the $35 million to make it to $40 million, I'll include that in the motion.
Okay, we have
my hands up.
Was that a second?
I can't.
Oh, okay. We have others with their hands up. Do we have a second for, but thank you. Do we have a second for Commissioner Overman? Okay. At this time, we have no second. And we'll keep with our discussion. Commissioner Cohen?
Thank you very much. When we look at the totality of the projects that the county is proposing doing with the American Rescue dollars, if you don't look at what the cities are doing as an overlay at the same time, I think you lose the context of how the money is being spent overall. I absolutely think that we should look at all this through the equity prism, but that has to include the money that the city of Tampa, the city of Temple Terrace, and the city of Plant City, and I'm not even sure if Temple Terrace and Plant City got this money. They did, okay. It has to include all of that money as well in the analysis, because without it, it just simply lacks context. District 1 has more county road miles than District 3, but less than District 2 and District 4. But where a lot of us is inside the city of Tampa. And I know that citizens, when they're out there, when they see the work being done, aren't generally making a distinction in terms of who is doing it. So, the spirit of looking at all this through the equitable lens, I think is excellent, but it's got to be all inclusive so that we're looking at everything that's being spent. And that includes, by the way, other categories like what we passed 2 weeks ago. It's all part and parcel of the same discussion. So that's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. And I very much appreciate this discussion and the backup material to provide context for this. Certainly the emerging work by our TPO about equity and inclusivity in our infrastructure in the built environment is very, very important, and it's something that I think we're all on that page of. But I'm feeling that today, this moment, it's it's all come kind of fast before the TPO studies are fully fleshed out in order to really make infrastructure decisions based on that. I think the big picture, the equity lens, is going to be really important moving forward. But the idea of putting this off even 30 days is just too hard for me, given the great need and the motivation and impetus coming from the board to begin work on these projects. I hope that, moving forward, we will be able to feather in the information about equity that as we learn it from the TPO into these decisions moving forward. I hope that county staff is hearing a board consensus and direction on wanting to incorporate this as another layer of criteria for the next phases of infrastructure. So I think it's very worthwhile that we are having those discussions and beginning to move in that direction. I just am also glad we're not putting the brakes on today. So thank you.
Commissioner Hagan?
Thank you. No, I'll be brief. I know Commissioner Overman's comments are well-intentioned. However, I can't support changing our process in the 9th hour. Our staff has, worked their butts off on working on this, preparing this list. I know they've met with me a couple of times. I'm sure they've met with all the commissioners several times on this. As Mr. Lyons displayed, our staff utilizes a cost-effective model that is extensively studied and data-driven. And the last thing I do want to point out, as the slide indicated, 30% of lane miles are in District 2, so there is a significant amount of this money that will be invested in District 2. But I also want to point out that in our last meeting, when we approved $75 million in county projects out of the ARP dollars, only 800,000, or just over 1%, was in District 2. So I just want to point that out. Thank you.
Commissioner Overman?
Thank you for the consideration of this. I would like to formally ask this transportation staff to consider Waters Avenue, which is a county road that I tried to add to the list and was told that that basically the district commissioners were giving preference for how the lists were presented and prioritized. And I get that. And as a countywide commissioner who also represents not only the districts but also the city of Tampa, and I drive on that road. It is worse than a dirt road. I drive on that road, and it is on our major roads list. So if there's another project on any one of the district list items that are willing to give up and make that a priority so I don't have to worry about whether or not fiscal year 23 funding is sufficient, I'm willing to horse trade and move forward on this today. But I do believe that it's important that any future infrastructure plans do get put through when the county transportation staff is adopting an investment plan, that we use the TPO's lens for non-discrimination and equity in our transportation funding decisions going forward. And I'll make that a formal motion subsequent to this decision to move forward.
Commissioner White, recognized.
I just want to state for the record that I don't have any projects on this list to give up because I stayed out of the way and let staff do their work. And they presented to me what they had come up with, and I said, "Hey, you're the ones with a PE license, not me. And if this is what you've come up with, it looks good to me. Yes, I know a lot of these roads, and yes, I know that they're in a state of disrepair and need work, but I didn't jockey for a single thing on this list. I just stayed out of the engineer's way. I want to just state that for the record."
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. I'm afraid we veer into some dicey territory, picking and choosing roads at this point, because I know I've been contacted by community leaders in Gibsonton about specific roads there that they would like to see prioritized. I've been contacted by the citizens in Sundance. I bet Megan has heard from them as well. There are terrible roads throughout our county that each of us would like to begin adding to this list, and we just don't have the money. And so, I would just caution us into getting into road by road at this stage. Thank you.
And Commissioner Cohen.
Yeah, very briefly,
Very briefly, I really want to echo what Commissioner White said. There were two particular thoroughfares I was looking for on the District 1 list. They're both on there, but they weren't on there at my request. They're on there because they're horrible. And they are Armenia and West Shore, both coming north of Kennedy Boulevard. But, my guess is, unfortunately, there just is an awful lot that's in bad shape. And I just agree that I think we need to stick with what has been proposed to us. And hopefully, I'm sure after this discussion, Waters Avenue is going to get another look. And I know I'll be paying very close attention now when I'm driving on it and bouncing around. But I do think that we are best to leave it alone and move forward with the list as it is.
And I don't see anybody else at this time. And I'll just say for the record, we've had a really robust discussion here. I have to say, you said it just now with Armenia Avenue, north of Kennedy. I mean, I find it shocking, the condition that it's in. So I'm glad to see that that's on the list. And I haven't maybe driven every road in the county for sure, but I honestly, some of the worst roads I've ever seen are in Waimama, just for the record. But with that said, it's a really complex, difficult analysis to make, even if you're just looking at the roads, much less if you're looking at the other issues that overlay this. And I do think it's very important, if you're going to put that analysis forward, to, as Commissioner White has pointed out, you have to look at the investment by other communities, by Tampa, Plant City, and Temple Terrace as well, and look at that. But also then, and I agree, we're looking at the stormwater investments which affect our roads, and maybe we have to broaden it to make that part of the consideration. I just think that there is a lot to be cognizant of here, and a lot of analysis and you could look at it many different ways. And as we all know, the need is just so tremendous in every way. I'll also add to that I do think part of the analysis is HART and the contribution, and I appreciate that this board supported that 100% earlier. I'll say on the TPO report that we just saw, recommendation number 5, the 5th of 5, continues to prioritize multimodal transportation and multimodal projects that benefit underserved neighborhoods and individuals. The recommendation is meant to encourage the provision of affordable and accessible transportation choices other than cars for all residents of Hillsborough County. And that's a main point that the report makes as well when we consider how we invest our dollars. So I think all of that is really important. I'm appreciative, and I think it's excellent. I was a supporter of the TPO, looking at that analysis, and that's another another part that we can take in and evaluate. But I think it's a really complex work, and I want to say, Ms. Wise, Mr. Lyons, I just think that, these lists were run to all of us. We had discussions. I hadn't actually seen it in my time. I hadn't seen it done. So again, I'll just say transparently, openly, and with the engagement for me as a commissioner, but for all the commissioners. That's not been my experience in the past. So I just like to say, offer my appreciation for this process in particular. And maybe we all didn't get at this time what we thought was the most critical road or project in there. And as we move forward, I would agree with Commissioner Cohen that Waters Avenue will be given great consideration as we move forward. But I think there's been very, very good work, and I don't want that to be missed in all this. And Commissioner White.
Yes, Madam Chair, and I apologize for getting into the queue again when the chairwoman was trying to wrap up the board's comments. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I appreciate the fact that staff is hitting the pause button on communities like Wimauma and Gibsonton right now so that we don't waste taxpayer dollars in terms of resurfacing roads just to tear them up for the septic, for the water and sewer infrastructure. So I think that's wise. So if you're from communities like Wimauma and Gibsonton and you're listening, we're going to take care of your water and sewer infrastructure, and then we're going to come in there right behind that and take care of those roads. And I think that's a wise decision.
Great point, and I think one that Commissioner Overman has repeatedly made in the past. I've heard that many times from Commissioner Overman. And with that, I see Commissioner Myers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to thank Commissioner White and County Administrator Wise for looking out for District 3, and hopefully this $5 million that's to be added would be passed by this board. Thank you so much.
Okay. With that, very good discussion. We have a motion by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Myers, and at this time, seeing no other discussion, can we please have a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you. And Commissioner Overman, you're recognized.
Thank you. What I'd like to recommend in light of the conversation that we've just had is to ask for a future workshop discussion on how to adopt the non-discriminatory equity plan in our county road construction process, so that we can, in fact, take a look at how our investment decisions at this level are working in tandem with the engineering and the financial needs that we have. Because I think that'll add to that lens to make sure that we address past inequities that we've seen in the transportation planning in Hillsborough County. 275 through the middle of Central Avenue is a good example. We don't want to do that anymore, right? And so I think it's important that we actually set a deadline for addressing those issues. I recognize we have an equity profile plan in the works, but I would find that there is an opportunity to use the transportation planning expertise that we have that has effectively addressed inequities and discrimination when it comes to transportation planning as a good model to moving forward and handling that workshop discussion. So I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a workshop to partner our county transportation team and our TPO and Planning Commission to discuss building a template for our transportation infrastructure plan to ensure that we're looking at transportation from a position of equity and non-discrimination.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Overman, seconded by Commissioner Smith, and seeing no further discussion at this time, can we please have a roll call vote?
Chair Kemp?
Yes.
Cohen?
Yes.
Hagan?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Overman?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried 7-0.
And thank you, John Lyons and all of his team for the amazing work that they've done to get us this far. So thank you.
Okay. And with that, Ms. Wise.
Thank you. And I was going to say just that with Greg Horwedel, Josh Bellotti, and John Lyons and their teams, they've spent a lot of time. And thank you, commissioners, for taking the time to meet with them to go over that. The only thing we have left are future discussion items.
Okay. And I did mention that I had a future discussion item, and I just had the Barris, but I wanted to report back. I wanted to report back from staff, and I think it's important to have it done, and probably it's pretty, because we already have the ordinance available, it's pretty easy to bring that back. I'd like to have a report back about options to amend our retail sales, pet sales ordinance to include rabbits, as simple as that. And I know that I looked around the country, and as was stated this morning, Orange County actually just recently passed their pet sales ordinance, and they had written it for dogs, cats, and rabbits. And it seems as though there's others that are updating it. But because I would ask that we bring it back as soon as possible in some forms. I know other commissioners asked maybe for other forms of this, but that we bring it back with some haste due to the timeliness of it. And I know we took a year, that we gave a year grace period on the last one, and I would hope that we are not doing that. This is, to me, not going to be a redo of the ordinance. So with that, I don't see any other discussion. So we can just stand adjourned, and another, even with our discussions, another out by 12:20.